Chapter 235. Han Hao looked at the woman, afraid that she would cause trouble here. He looked at Duan Muke and said, "Xiao Ke, I'm glad you came, but I really don't welcome your fiancée, so please take her away." Before Duan Muke could say anything, the woman rushed in front of Han Hao, pointed at Han Hao's nose and said, You want me to leave? Don't think that because it's your birthday today, I won't dare to do anything to you." I could see that Han Hao wasn't happy and was about to argue with the woman, but Han Hao blocked me behind him. He looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, I'm giving Duan Muke face, so I don't want to argue with you. Today is my daughter's birthday party, and I don't want anyone to cause trouble here. So I don't welcome you, so please leave immediately." Han Hao pointed at the door, wanting her to leave quickly. As soon as Han Hao finished speaking, the woman's face turned blue. Before anyone could react, she slapped Han Hao in the face. Han Hao held his face and lowered his head, but didn't say anything. I looked at Han Hao's face, which was red from the slap. I turned around and looked at the woman, who was smiling proudly. Duan Muke stood behind her, not saying a word. I looked at Duan Muke and said softly, "Xiao Ke, Xiao Hao is your brother. It's not appropriate for you to let your fiancé cause trouble here. You see, the atmosphere is very awkward. I hope you can take your woman and leave. I don't need her to apologize to Xiao Hao." The woman looked at me and shouted, "Apologize? Did I not get beaten enough? Let me tell you, you want me to apologize? Impossible. Don't think that because you had a good relationship with Duan Muke, you can do whatever you want to my man. Who do you think you are? I'm not afraid to tell you that I came here today with a temper. Last time, you slapped me. This time, I'll give your man a light slap. Don't think that because you have so many people supporting you, I'll be afraid of you. Who do you think you are? You're pregnant with someone else's child before you're divorced. You think I didn't investigate? You and Han Hao's child before you and Duan Muke got divorced, right? That's ridiculous. I heard that you pretended to be pitiful at that time. What a bitch. Duan Muke was merciful to a bitch like you? You're shameless." I sneered. It seemed that she really did investigate me quite a bit. I looked at her and said, "Duan Muke's wife's wife said again." The woman looked at me and pointed at my nose. I said, "You are a bitch," she said, enunciating each word clearly. Bitch. As soon as she finished speaking, I extended my hand and gave her a slap. Then, I kicked her stomach and kicked her to the ground. Just as I was about to chase after her to continue hitting her, Han Hao held me in his arms. The Red Baron ran past me and sat on the woman. He gave her 2 slaps. She covered her face and looked at us in disbelief, unable to speak. Duan Muke, on the other hand, just stood by the side and didn't participate. He didn't speak either. The woman was pinned down by the Red Baron and couldn't move. She screamed loudly, which attracted a lot of people. Han Hao hugged me tightly, afraid that I would act rashly again. I looked at Han Hao's face, which was still red. The more I looked at him, the angrier I felt. The Red Baron and Xin Yao kept the woman under control. Suri stood next to Duan Muke, making sure that he didn't do anything rash. At this moment, my parents walked over. My father looked at us, and then at me. He asked, "Li, what's going on? What happened?" Before I could open my mouth, Han Hao told my parents what happened. My father looked at the woman who was pinned down on the ground. He waved his hand and said softly, "There are so many people at home today. It's embarrassing. Hurry up and get up." Hearing my father say that, the Red Baron and Xin Yao let go of the woman. She stood up and stood next to Duan Muke, glaring at us fiercely. My father looked at the woman and then sneered. "You should be Chief Wang's daughter, Wang Lu-er. Oh, you know me? That's even better. Your daughter and son-in-law treated me like this today. What do you think we should do?" Wang Lu-er put her hands on her waist and looked at us with an unforgiving expression. My father sneered and looked at her. "Wang Lu-er, your father should have told you before. If you meet your Uncle Lung in society, you should avoid him. You should have heard of it." Wang Lu-er froze. She looked at my father and then said softly, "I'm sorry. I'm going to make a call." After a while, Wang Lu came back. Her expression became very awkward. She looked at my father and said softly, "I'm sorry, Uncle Lung. I didn't know she was your daughter. I've disturbed you today. I still have things to do, so I'll leave first." Then she turned and left. Duan Muke didn't leave with her. After watching Wang Luer leave, Han Hao patted Duan Muke's shoulder and said, "Come on, let's go in and eat something. Don't just stand there like an idiot." Duan Muke nodded and followed Han Hao into the living room. The few of us followed them in. At this time, Yi held her boyfriend's hand and ran over to us. Han Hao hugged her and kissed Yi's face. "Yi, how are you playing with your friend? The two of us are having a great time. It's just that I miss you, so I came to find you. Later, I'll take him to the garden to play." Yi nodded seriously. Han Hao rubbed Yi's head and said, "You can play in the garden, but you can't run around and you can't talk to strangers. Promise me." Yi nodded furiously and pulled Yi to another place to play. I glanced at Duan Muke and saw that he was staring at Yi without blinking. That feeling made me feel uncomfortable. At this time, Duan Muke said to Xinyao, "Xinyao, I don't know why, but why do I feel like that he looks like me? Do you think she's Han Hao's child?" "Could she be my child?" Xinyao was stunned. She shook her head and said to Duan Muke, Brother, how could that be? I'm hungry. Come on, let's go eat something good." Then, she pulled Duan Muke to the dining area. I let out a long breath. Fortunately, Xinyao had interrupted. If Duan Muke had found out, I really didn't know what to do. I turned to look at Han Hao. His face was still red. My heart ached, and I reached out to touch his face. "You have to disinfect it. Otherwise, it will be even more swollen." I saw that there was still some time before the party officially started. I pulled Han Hao upstairs and into the bedroom. Chapter 236. I took out the first aid kit. Inside was a tube of very good beauty ointment. It was perfect for the wound on Han Hao's face. I didn't want to hurt him, so I used very little strength. Han Hao just kept looking at me and didn't say anything. I sighed and looked at him. "What's wrong? If you have something to say, just say it." Han Hao smiled. He reached out and pulled my arm. "Fool, are you angry?" he asked softly. "Angry that Duan Muke didn't help stop Wang Luer? What's there to be angry about? If his woman wants to stop her, then so be it. If he doesn't want to stop her, then so be it. Besides, even if he didn't stop her, didn't the Red Baron and Xinyao do it for me? There's nothing to be angry about. Fortunately, Father's name suppressed her. Otherwise, today's birthday party would have been ruined because of her." I put the ointment into the first aid kit. Then I looked at him and said softly, "Good. This ointment is really good. Now I can't even see the wound. It's really good. All right, let's go downstairs. It'll be time soon." Han Hao nodded. He looked at the time and then at me. He picked me up and pressed me down on the bed. Before I could react, he kissed me. My face was red. I looked at him and said softly, "Silly, everyone is outside. If someone really came in, it wouldn't be good. Darling, let go of me." Han Hao didn't want to let go of me. He looked at me and said softly, "Don't be afraid. Our relationship has been public for a long time. What are you afraid of? As long as you're mine, I'm not afraid of anything." Han Hao kissed me again. Then he looked at me and smiled happily. I reached out and hooked my arm around his neck. I didn't want to think too much about it. At this moment, the door to the room was suddenly pushed open. It was Red Ju who came in. She looked at me and Han Hao's ambiguous appearance on the bed. She stood at the door with her hands on her waist and said softly, "You two still have time to be lovey-dovey here? Hurry up and go downstairs." Han Hao and I quickly sat up. I looked at the Red Baron awkwardly and said softly, "Darling, what's wrong? Go downstairs and take a look." Duan Muke seems to have realized that Yi is his child. He's holding on to Yi and won't let go. Yi is crying very hard downstairs. The chairman and madam are still receiving guests outside. Go down and take care of them. The Red Baron sighed helplessly. What? I couldn't care less. I lifted my skirt and ran downstairs. When I reached the living room, I didn't see Duanmu and the others. At this moment, the Red Baron and Han Hao followed me downstairs. The Red Baron looked at me and said softly, Xin Yao brought them to the study. I quickly ran to the study. When I reached the study, I saw Duanmu pulling Yi's arm. Yi kept dodging him and crying loudly. Xin Yao kept comforting Yi. Suri stood next to Duanmu and tried to reason with him. Uxin also stood on the side without saying a word. Looking at Yi crying her heart out, I couldn't control myself at all. I ran over and slapped Duanmu hand away, then took Yi into my arms. Yi looked at me and hugged me tightly as she cried loudly, Mama. Seeing Yi cry, I couldn't control my tears either. Han Hao and Red Ju also rushed over. I handed Yi into Han Hao's arms. Han Hao took Yi and gently comforted her. I turned my head to look at Duanmu, Quebec. He looked at me very calmly and softly asked, Shaoli, whose daughter is Yi? I just looked at him and didn't answer. Duanmu walked to my side. He looked at me and said, Tell me the truth. Whose daughter is Yi? At this moment, Han Hao walked over with Yi in his arms. He looked at Duanmu and said softly, Xiaokei, don't force Shaoli to tell you. Besides, Yi is still a child. As an elder, isn't it inappropriate for you to treat her like this? Shut up. Duanmu shouted at Han Hao. He looked at Han Hao and said softly, Do you really think I'm an idiot? Yi is 3 years old this year. Before I divorced Shaoli, she was already in Xiao Li's stomach. So whose child is this? Did I ask Shaoli to hide it, or was it yours? Did you and Shaoli sleep together before we got divorced? I didn't dare to answer. I didn't dare to let Duanmu know that Yi was his daughter. I also didn't want him to misunderstand Xiao Hao. It was a difficult choice. Yi cried even harder. I looked at Duanmu and said softly, Duanmu, I swear, this child isn't Han Hao's. Yi likes him. From the moment she saw him, she kept calling him Daddy. And I promised Han Hao that I would marry him. So, there's nothing wrong with Yi calling him Daddy. Don't misunderstand Xiao Hao. Duanmu laughed coldly. He looked at me and said, Whose child is this? Is it mine? Duanmu put his hands on my shoulders and shouted. His expression looked like he wanted to eat me. I shook off his hands and shouted at him. Whether the child is yours or not has nothing to do with you. Duanmu, don't think that you can do whatever you want to me. Yi has nothing to do with you. Don't let your imagination run wild. I didn't know why, but after I said that, my eyes became moist. I felt very uncomfortable. I turned around and walked toward the door. Duanmu suddenly rushed in front of me and stopped me. He looked at me and said softly, Okay, let's calm down. I don't mean anything else. I just think that Yi looks like me. Let's stop making wild guesses. Let's do a paternity test with Yi. I froze and said loudly, No, absolutely not. Duanmu looked at me in disbelief and asked loudly, Why? Why not? What are you running away from? Is Yi my child? Tell me the truth, isn't it? No. She has nothing to do with you. Let go of me. I shook off Duanmu hands, turned around, and took Yi from Han Hao's arms. I ran out of the study and into the bedroom. I closed the door and put Yi on the bed. I couldn't help but cry. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I could have told him that Yi was his child, but I didn't tell him the truth. There was a knock on the bedroom door. I didn't answer and just sat on the bed crying. There was another knock on the door. Dear, I know you're in there. Open the door first. Don't be afraid. It's just me. No one will take Yi away from you. I still didn't answer. I sat on the floor and cried. Then Yi climbed down from the bed. She ran to the door and opened it. Han Hao walked in from outside. He looked at me with a worried expression, but I didn't dare to look at him. Chapter 237. Han Hao walked to my side and gently stroked my hair. My heart calmed down a little. He turned to look at Yi and said softly, Go find Auntie Xinyao and tell her to postpone the birthday party speech for a while. Also, help me close the door. Thank you. Nodded as if she understood. She walked out of the bedroom and closed the door. Only Han, Hao, and I were left in the room. Han Hao turned to look at me and said softly, "All right, it's just the two of us left. You can vent now, but don't let yourself be too sad. I don't want you to be hurt too much." I raised my head and looked at Han Hao. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I threw myself into Han Hao's arms and cried. Han Hao hugged me tightly. He gently patted my shoulder as if he was coaxing a child. After a while, I struggled to sit up in Han Hao's arms. I rubbed my eyes and looked at him. For how long I had been sitting on the floor, Han Hao had been squatting in front of me. His legs were probably numb. He kept changing his legs. I looked at Han Hao and couldn't help but laugh. Han Hao looked at me and laughed too. Han Hao stood up and looked at me with a smile. "Silly, don't think too much. Why are you crying? What's there to cry about? Let Xiao Ke think too much. The fact that is his baby can't be kept secret for too long. It might not be a bad thing for him to know. So don't think too much. Let nature take its course." Han Hao hugged me and patted my shoulder. I lay in Han Hao's arms and felt his heartbeat. I didn't think too much. I adjusted my mood and looked at the time. It was already past the birthday party speech time. I quickly stood up from Han Hao's arms and looked at him with a frightened expression. Han Hao smiled and said, "I already told them to go down later. Don't worry. Let's go down now. It's already very late." I looked at Han Hao. He thought for a moment and nodded. He took my hand and walked out of the bedroom. The two of us stood on the stairs. I reached out and touched my face. In a low voice, I said to Han Hao, "Can you help me check if my makeup is off?" Han Hao reached out and touched my hair. He smiled at me and said, "No. My wife is so beautiful. You look good no matter what. Come, let's go down together." Han Hao pulled my hand and I held his arm. The two of us and walked down the stairs. "Look, they're coming down." I heard a guest shout from downstairs and everyone's eyes focused on us. I held Han Hao's arm, leaned on his shoulder, and walked downstairs intimately. In the crowd, I saw Duanmu K standing in the corner. He looked at us expressionlessly, but I still felt uncomfortable when I saw his expression. I glanced around. Luckily, Yi was in Xinyao's arms. I sighed softly. Han Hao and I walked to the middle of the living room, and all the guests gathered around us. Han Hao took a step forward and looked at everyone with a smile. "First of all, I would like to thank everyone for coming to the Lung residence to participate in my daughter Yi's birthday party. I am very honored, and I would like to thank my fiancée, the eldest daughter of the Lung residence, and her friends for organizing this birthday party. I feel very happy. Today, I would like to tell everyone that I am going to marry the eldest daughter of the Lung residence, Lung Glaze, as my wife. I hope everyone will come to our wedding celebration. I hope everyone will have a good time here today. We will also have a beer party in the evening, so please enjoy yourselves and drink to your heart's content." I accompanied Han Hao to toast the guests one by one to thank them for coming. There were also a lot of people who had prepared birthday presents for Han Hao and Yi. I had already asked the auntie to move them all into my bedroom. There were a lot of people who came today, and I could see that Han Hao was very happy. I had heard from Xinyao before that the person with the best character in the entire Kurosawa was Han Hao. His circle of friends was very wide, and he didn't have any negative image. The older generation liked him very much, and the younger generation also liked to be good friends with him. However, Han Hao had also told me that there were a lot of girls chasing him. Although Han Hao's family background couldn't be compared to Duanmu K's, his overall situation was still very good. However, it was true that he had never been in a relationship before. Just like his friends who came today, there weren't any girls. Actually, looking at it this way, I was very satisfied, and I didn't have to worry about him being kidnapped. Halfway through the toast with Han Hao, he just happened to see his high school classmates greeting him. Han Hao looked at me and said, "Dear, my classmates are over there. I have to go and say hello to them. Is that okay? I nodded. Han Hao kissed me on the forehead and ran over. I looked around and just happened to see Xin Yao and the others in the garden, so I walked over to them. Since they were standing very close to the back door of the room, I prepared to walk over from the back door. Just as I walked to the back door, I heard the voices of a few women outside the door. I heard my name, so I stopped my hand from opening the door and stood at the door to listen to what they were talking about. I heard one of the women say, "Hey, did you hear that Han Hao is going to marry Cold Glaze? Isn't that right?" I heard that Cold Glaze used to be Duan Mukei's wife. After they divorced, she hooked up with Duan Mukei's brother, Han Hao. It seems that woman isn't very good. Hearing that, I tightly clenched my fists. My heart suddenly became restless. That's nothing. I heard that she came back from abroad. Maybe it's more liberal abroad. Han Hao said that today is his daughter's birthday. I saw that little girl. She should be 3 years old. When Cold Glaze and Duan Mukei divorced, it caused a huge uproar. Everyone knew about their divorce. How long has it been? It's definitely less than 3 years. That means that this child was already there before Cold Glaze and Duan Mukei divorced. But Han Hao said that the child is his. That means that Han Hao and Cold Glaze were already together before the divorce. I guess Duan Mukei doesn't even know that he was cuckolded. The cold laughter of the women came from outside. I couldn't listen to it anymore. Just as I was about to rush out, I heard one of the women say, "Keep your voice down. What if they hear you?" But it's really a pity for Duanmu, Quebec. Such a good man actually married such a woman. Have you heard that there are internal problems in the Black Nightmare group? Do you think that Cold Glaze emptied the Black Nightmare group after the divorce? Chapter 238. Are you for Real? She's so bad. So the Lung residence is filled with people like this? Or are all Red Minghui people like this? I really can't believe it. Looks like we came to the right place today. What if there's some real gossip? The laughter of the women came from outside again. I really couldn't control myself anymore. When I saw them, they were cowering in the corner like cowards, crying out loud. I raised my head and saw that the person who had rushed out from my side was Duanmu, Quebec. He was glaring at them like a wild beast. Duan Mukei looked at them with contempt and shouted, "Scram!" Duan Mukei looked at them with disdain and shouted, "Scram!" Duan Mukei looked at them with his eyes wide open and shouted, "Scram!" Duan Mukei looked at them with disdain and shouted, "Scram!" The women ran away with their tails between their legs. Because the back door was hidden, no one else saw them. I looked at Duan Mukei and didn't know what to say. Duan Mukei turned to look at me and asked softly, "Are you okay?" I shook my head and said, "I'm fine. I'm used to it. Ever since I brought Yi back to China, I rarely show her around, but people still found out. After hearing so much gossip, I got used to it. Having Yi is enough for me." Duan Mukei looked at me. His expression was very calm. He said softly, "Is Yi really Han Hao's?" I was stunned and turned my head away from him. Duan Mukei held my shoulders and pressed me against the wall. His face was almost touching mine. I leaned against the wall with all my strength and turned my head away, not daring to look at him. Duan Mukei stared at me and asked word by word, "Who is Yi?" I still didn't answer. Duan Mukei sneered. He looked at me and said, "You really want to hide it from me? You think you can hide it?" I reached out and pushed Duan Mukei away. I said softly to him, "Xiaokei, I'm begging you. Can you not force me to tell you? Yi really has nothing to do with you. Don't force me to tell you anything. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Please let me go." "No. You have to give me a perfect explanation today. Shaoli, don't try to run away. It's useless. You can't escape." Duan Mukei held my shoulders tightly. He pressed me against the wall, and I couldn't move at all. I didn't know what to do. Just when the two of us were entangled, Xin Yao suddenly ran over from not far away. Her face was covered in tears. She rushed in front of me and Duan Mukei and shouted, "Sister-in-law! Sister-in-law! Something big happened." Xin Yao ran over to me. Her tears couldn't stop flowing. I shook off Duan Mukei's hand. I looked at Xin Yao and asked softly, Xin Yao, what's going on? Don't panic. Take your time. I reached out and wiped away the tears on Xin Yao's face. Xin Yao looked at me. She took out her phone from her pocket and handed it to me. Sister-in-law, take a look. Yi was kidnapped. There's a video on my phone. She couldn't stop crying again. What? What's going on? I took Xin Yao's phone and opened it. There really was a video on it. I pressed play and was shocked. In the video, a masked man was holding Yi in his arms. Yi was wearing the dress that Xin Yao had given her. She was tied to a chair and wailing. The scene looked like an abandoned factory. Then, the voice in the video said, "This child is in my hands. I'll contact you later. If you dare to call the police, I'll kill her." After watching the video, I was scared out of my wits. I sat down on the floor. Duan Mukei snatched the phone from my hand. He was also watching the video. When the voice in the video appeared again, I couldn't stop my tears from flowing. Xin Yao also sat next to me and cried. Duan Mukei handed the phone to Xin Yao and said calmly, "Xin Yao, tell Han, Hao, and the others about this. Don't let Xiao Li's parents know about this. Then, try your best to get the Red Baron to send everyone away. After they leave, we'll go upstairs and discuss this. Go ahead. I'll take care of Xiao Li." After saying that, Duan Mukei helped me up. He helped me to the back door of the room and led me upstairs, avoiding the crowded areas. After we entered the bedroom, Duan Mukei helped me to a chair. I was so sad that I couldn't get up from the table. Duan Mukei sat next to me. He looked at me and sighed. I knew he was worried, but he didn't know how to comfort me. I thought for a moment. At this point, it was time to let Duan Mukei know about Yi's background. I looked at Duan Mukei and said softly, "Xiaokei, haven't you always wanted to know about Yi's background?" Duan Mukei looked at me blankly for a moment, then nodded. I continued, "That's right, Yi is indeed your child. I was already pregnant with her before we divorced. Although many accidents happened after that, and I almost lost her, she was very strong and survived. The child is yours, but it's impossible for the child to be Han Hao's. Although I spent the night at Han Hao's house before we divorced, I was already pregnant at that time. But other than that day, I was with you almost every day. If I were to tell you that this child is Han Hao's, would you believe it?" Duan Mukei stood up. He looked at me and shouted, "Then why didn't you tell me? I've forced you to tell me so many times. Why didn't you tell me the truth?" I smiled bitterly. I looked at Duan Mukei and said, "Tell you the truth? What's the point? I went abroad pregnant. When I brought Yi back and was about to look for you, you were already engaged to Wang Le. What do you want me to tell you? Bring the child to ruin your life? I can't do such a thing. Although the child is yours, I can support her. Besides, she's already used to it. Besides, I've already promised Han Hao, and Yi likes Han Hao very much. That's enough. You're happy, and I'm happy. Isn't that good? But Yi has been kidnapped. What am I supposed to do?" I cried even harder. Duan Mukei sighed. He whispered to me, "All right, don't worry. I'll make the arrangements when the people arrive. Don't worry, I'll definitely bring Yi back. In fact, when I first saw Yi, I felt that she was my child. The aura in her eyes was exactly the same as mine. No matter what time it is, my child will definitely be able to recognize me. Don't worry, leave it to me." Chapter 239. Duan Mukei reached out and gently stroked my head. I was still crying on the table. Just then, the bedroom door was pushed open and Han Hao walked in. Without saying a word, he ran straight to Duan Mukei. He grabbed his collar and punched him hard in the face. Duan Mukei lost his balance and fell to the ground. Han Hao was about to rush forward again when Suri caught up with him. Xian Yao and the Red Baron also ran in. Xian Yao ran to Duan Mukei and helped him up. I didn't understand what was going on, so I stood up from the chair. I could clearly see that Han Hao was very angry. Han Hao pointed at Duan Mukei and shouted, "Duan Mukei, tell me, Did you ask someone to kidnap E? E is still so young. How could you bear to do that? Duan Muke stood up and looked at Han Hao seriously. Xiao Hao, don't be angry. I swear I really didn't kidnap E. She's my daughter. How could I be her helper? I looked at Han Hao and nodded. I only told him because I knew something happened to E. He didn't know before, so I believe that Duan Muke definitely wasn't the one who kidnapped E. I believe him. At this point, my tears fell again. Han Hao looked at me and sighed. He reached out and wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes. He reached out and hugged me, patting my back gently. Han Hao looked at Duan Muke in disbelief. What happened? You really didn't do it? Duan Muke nodded. He looked at Han Hao and nodded. I can swear to you that it definitely wasn't me, but I think I already know who it was. At this time, the Red Jew was stunned. She said, I know. Is it that long? It hasn't been that long, so it can't be her. How could she have time to plan? You're underestimating her. She has a circle of friends, and they're all gangsters who don't do proper work. Wang Lu always hangs out with those people, so this matter is most likely done by her, Duan Muke said softly. Xin Yao looked at Duan Mu, Quebec brother. Have you called her and asked? If it's really her, talk to her and see if she can return E to us. Duan Muke sighed. I just called her, but her phone was turned off. I also contacted her parents. They said that Wang Lu hasn't been home all day. In other words, we can't get in touch with her. I felt helpless. I sat on the chair again, unable to stop my tears. Then we could only wait for them to call, the Red Baron said softly. Han Hao sat next to me and gently patted my back. Darling, don't cry. I'll definitely save E. I'll ask a few friends to go out and look for her. You should rest well at home. Call me if anything happens. I leaned into Han Hao's arms, feeling like I had nothing left to live for. At this moment, my phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. Could it be the kidnapper? I quickly picked it up. Hello. Oh, you picked up pretty quickly. I guess you've already guessed who I am. The voice on the other end of the phone didn't sound familiar. Are you the one who kidnapped my daughter? Tell me, what do you want? I tried to calm myself down. You're quite straightforward. Bring 5 million in cash to the abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city at 11 o'clock at night. You're only allowed to come. If you dare to bring anyone else, I'll immediately kill this little girl. My hand trembled when I heard him say that. After thinking for a while, I said softly, let me hear my daughter's voice first. After waiting for a while, E's screams came from the other end of the phone. Mom, Dad, come and save me. It's so dark here. I'm so scared. Hearing E's crying voice, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. I couldn't help but cry again. How about it, Miss Lung? 5 million at 11 o'clock. Don't forget. He hung up. E. I shouted, but I couldn't hear E's voice at all. I gripped the phone tightly as I leaned over the table and cried out in pain. Han Hao was sitting next to me. He'd heard the contents of the phone call. Xin Yao and the others were very worried and asked what the kidnapper said, but I didn't have the strength to speak. Han Hao repeated the contents of the phone call to everyone. At this moment, the Red Baron ran out of the bedroom. After a while, she ran back with a bank card. She handed the card to me and said softly, Miss, this is the 10 million that was transferred. You should take it first. I don't think they can give you a bank card. You might have to go to many ATMs to withdraw the money. It's a very troublesome matter. At this moment, Suri walked over. He looked at me and said, Miss, leave the matter of withdrawing the money to me. He glanced at the time and said, there's still time. I'll be back in half an hour. I'll get Xin Yao to go with me. I looked at him and nodded. The Red Baron handed the bank card to Suri. Suri and Xin Yao both left. I was relieved to leave this matter to the two of them. Compared to this, I was more worried about E. It had been so long, and she'd said on the phone that it was dark and scary. She'd never left my side since she was young. Now that she was in danger alone, I was really worried. Han Hao looked at me and said softly, Darling, are you really going to go alone? I nodded and looked at him and said softly, "What else can I do? The kidnappers specifically asked me to go. If you all go with me and something happens to E, I don't want to live anymore. So let me go. I'd rather exchange my life for E's." Han Hao hugged me and said softly, "Silly, nothing can happen to you. I won't allow anything to happen to you. I just got you, and I'm about to build a happy family with you and E. How can I let anything happen to you? How about this? When it's about time, I'll drive you there, and then I'll wait for you at the entrance of the abandoned factory. I won't go in with you. If anything happens to you, just give me a call, and I'll rush in immediately. I have to ensure your and E's safety, okay?" I leaned into Han Hao's embrace and nodded. There was no other way. I just hoped that E could hold on until I went to save her. 11 o'clock was too late. I really wanted to go and save her as soon as possible. If I lost her, I wouldn't even have the meaning to live. Chapter 240. At this moment, Han Hao turned to Duanmuke and said, "Xiaoke, come with me for a moment." Duanmuke nodded and walked out of the bedroom with Han Hao. Only the Red Baron and I were left in the room. The Red Baron sighed and looked at me. "You told Duanmuke about E's past." I nodded. "Yeah, I can't hide it anymore. He's E's biological father, so he'll find out about E's past sooner or later. It's better to tell him now." "Then what about saving E? Are you going to do it yourself?" The Red Baron looked at me helplessly as she linked her arms with mine. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm going to save E myself. That's what the kidnappers said. They want me to go alone. I won't be at ease if I don't see E. You know that E has never left my side. Now that she's in danger, my heart is about to break. I'd rather be in danger than let her be in danger." The Red Baron thought for a moment and looked at me. "Let me go," she said. I stared blankly at the Red Baron. The Red Baron smiled and said, "Let me go. The kidnappers don't know who Cold Glaze is. Won't it make the same difference if I go or you go? So let me go." "No way. How can I let you put yourself in danger? You don't have to worry about it. I have to go personally. What if someone knows Cold Glaze? Both you and E might be in trouble. You've done a lot for me. How can I let you put your life in danger again? Red Baron, listen to me. You have to trust me." I gripped the Red Baron's shoulder tightly as I spoke to her in a serious tone. The Red Baron looked at me and nodded helplessly. She said softly, "All right, I'll listen to you. But you have to listen to me on two things. First, you have to set off to save E. I'll follow you in secret, and I won't let anyone find out. Also, I have to tell the president and his wife about E's kidnapping. I know you'll definitely refuse, but you have to listen to me on this matter because you're going to be in danger too. The president and his wife have to have the right to know about this." I looked at Red Jew. She had already thought of everything for me while I was in a mess and helped me deal with a lot of problems. I looked at Red Jew with tears in my eyes. I nodded and said to her, "Okay, I got it. I promise you that I can tell my parents. After all, they have to be mentally prepared if something happens to E. However, you must not be too direct when you tell them. I'm afraid that the two of them won't be able to take it. After all, the elderly love their children. After all, they're very old." "That's for sure," the Red Baron said softly as she looked outside the door. "Don't you want to hear what Han Hao and Duanmuke are talking about?" I shook my head and said, "I don't want to know. It's nothing more than a conversation between brothers. I don't want to hear it either. They're used to bickering." As soon as I said that, Duanmuke and Han Hao walked into the bedroom. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He walked to my side and hugged me gently. After a while, Suri and Xinyao came back with a suitcase. Suri handed the suitcase to me and said, "Miss, we've finally collected it after running through half the city. We're exhausted. Luckily, we made it in time. What should we do later? Let's go together." The Red Baron shook her head. She looked at Suri and said, "Let's do it this way. I'll arrange the rescue for E today. I know that I don't have much status in front of you, but I have the most experience. I hope you can trust me." Everyone looked at each other, then looked at Red Jew and nodded. Red Jew continued, "This kidnapper is very shrewd at first glance. Because the sound of the video has been processed, the money to be given to the kidnapper must be real money. Therefore, according to the kidnapper's request, the money must be personally delivered by the young lady. Because Han Hao was not at ease and was also afraid that the other party would secretly follow them, Han Hao sent the young lady to the abandoned factory, but he had to stop at the door. Then, the young lady walked in with her suitcase. Han Hao had to stay in the car and absolutely could not get out of the car and go with the young lady. Xin Yao will stay at home. After all of us depart, we'll tell the president and his wife about this matter. Then we'll call the police. Duan Muke, I'll have to trouble you to go to Wang Luer's house and tell her father everything that happened today. Also, you have to tell him about Wang Luer's friends. After Han Hao and Miss depart, Suri and I will secretly follow them. We just have to make sure that no one notices us. Then, after Miss enters the factory, Suri and I will sneak into the factory. This way, if the kidnappers really make a move, we'll be able to fight back." Duanmuke thought for a moment. Then, he looked at the Red Baron and said, "Your plan is very thorough, but is it appropriate to let Shaoli go in alone? I'm more worried that something will happen to her." "That won't happen. I definitely won't let myself get hurt. It's fine. Let's just follow the Red Baron's suggestion. I think it's very thorough. As long as every aspect is well prepared, we won't have any problems. If Wang Lu really did it, I'll make her pay the price this time." I clenched my fists tightly. Han Hao glanced at the time. There were still 2 hours until 11 o'clock. Han Hao looked at everyone and said, "There's still some time. Everyone, go back to your rooms and rest for a while. In an hour, gather in the living room. Red Baron, please arrange a place for Duanmuke to rest." The Red Baron nodded. Everyone left the bedroom except for Han Hao and I. "So, for ease sake, I am willing to wait for you in the car. But you must call me immediately if anything happens. No matter what happens, I will rush to your side. Okay?" Han Hao held me in his arms and gently stroked my hair. I leaned into his arms and said softly, "Xiao Hao, if something happens to me, I hope you can forget about me and find a woman who loves you to start a new life. I didn't belong to you in the first place, and now it seems like fate has arranged it. If something really happens to me, you must find happiness." Chapter 241. Don't spout nonsense. You're the only one I've ever loved in my life, so I only want to be with you. Don't think too much. I want to be with you. Don't worry, and you will come back safely. Don't worry, you have to trust me. Han Hao hugged me in his arms. My heart was in a mess. I didn't know what would happen next, but I wasn't afraid at all. I wanted to save my daughter. I had to save her successfully. Han Hao rested with me for an hour. When it was time for us to meet, everyone gathered in the living room. Suri and the Red Baron had already changed into their night clothes. Xinyao's eyes were red. She must have cried. Actually, she really loved Yi. Whenever I was busy, she would take care of Yi. Moreover, she had groomed Yi to have a very avant-garde fashion point. It seemed like she wanted to bring Yi into the fashion industry. When the Red Baron saw that everyone had gathered, he said, "All right, let's follow the plan we discussed earlier." The Red Baron turned to look at me and said softly, "Missy, you have to be careful. If there's any danger, don't rush forward on your own. Do you understand? I don't want you to be in danger. If there's anything, you have to call for help." I nodded, and everyone went their separate ways. Duanmuke left the house first and went straight to Wang Luer's house. I got into Han Hao's car and sat in the front passenger seat. There was 5 million in cash in the back seat. I was still very nervous. I panted and tried to calm myself down. Han Hao could tell that I was nervous. He put his hand on my hand and comforted me. I smiled at him, and we set off on our journey to the abandoned factory. Han Hao drove very steadily because he had made an appointment with Suri and the rest. He controlled the speed at 60 miles per hour. Suri's car left 10 minutes later than ours. When we reached the fork in the road, we took the main road while they took the smaller road to reach the abandoned factory earlier. The fork in the road was about 20 minutes away from the abandoned factory, so it was impossible for the kidnappers to find us. Han, Hao, and I didn't speak on the way. He knew that I liked to be alone when something happened, so he didn't disturb me. Finally, we arrived at the entrance of the abandoned factory. I looked around and saw that the entire factory was shrouded in darkness. It was so eerie that it looked like it was going to swallow people whole. I sighed. Han, Hao held my hand and hugged me. He said softly, "Darling, don't be afraid. Don't worry. I'll always be here with you. Darling, I'll wait for you to come back. I'll definitely wait for you to come back. You have to be careful. Call me immediately if there's anything, okay?" Han Hao's eyes were wet. He held my face and kissed me gently. I couldn't help but cry. I reached out to touch his face and said, "All right, don't worry. I'll be back soon. You have to wait for me." I let go of his hand, turned around, and got out of the car. I walked to the back seat and took my suitcase. I closed the door and walked into the factory without looking back. I heard Han Hao shouting for me from behind. He had promised the Red Baron that he wouldn't get out of the car. I could hear the helplessness in his hoarse voice. I didn't think too much about it. I walked into the factory. There were many abandoned buildings in the factory compound. I didn't know which building the kidnappers had taken them to. I stood in the middle of a courtyard and looked at the time. It was already the appointed time. Then my phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it was a call from one of the kidnappers. I answered the call. "Hello, where do you want to go?" "I already saw you. You're in the building on the left. Come in." The call ended and I looked up at the building on the left. There was a figure standing on the third floor. It looked like the kidnappers. I sighed and walked over with my suitcase. I hadn't taken 2 steps when I saw a black figure standing at the foot of the wall. It was none other than the Red Baron. She nodded at me. I pretended to be calm and walked towards the building. It looked like Suri had already gone into hiding. The Red Baron must have come to give me a hint. I carried my suitcase and walked into the building. It was so dark that I couldn't see anyone at all. I stood near the door and shouted, "I'm here. I'm here to save my daughter. Come out." I waited for a while, but there was no answer. I shouted again. Then I heard the sound of footsteps. It was the sound of many people's footsteps. I also heard a choked cry. It must have been E's voice, but it sounded more like whimpers. She must have been gagged. I shouted, "E, is that you?" At this time, a light 30 meters away from me lit up. It was so bright that I couldn't open my eyes. I blocked it with my hand. When I came back to my senses, I saw a dozen people standing under the light. One of the men was holding E in his arms. E was tied up and gagged. When she saw me, she cried even louder. I shouted, "E, let go of her. I've brought what you want. Give my daughter back to me." Looking at E's suffering appearance, I couldn't stop the tears from flowing down from the corners of my eyes. At this time, the sound of high-heeled footsteps came from behind a nearby pillar. When she came in front of me, I saw that it was Wang Lu. She walked up to me, took my arm, and looked at me with contempt. It was as if she wanted to eat me. I looked at her angrily, but E was still in their hands. I couldn't be too impulsive. Wang Lu looked at me and sneered. "Did you bring the money?" I handed the suitcase to her and said, "I brought it. It's all inside. You can count it." Wang Lu snapped her fingers, and a man came from behind. He took the suitcase from my hands and opened it in front of us. He began to count the money. I looked at Wang Lu and said, "Can you give it back to me now?" Wang Lu glanced at the person who was counting the money. Then she snapped her fingers. The man who was carrying E came over and handed E to Wang Lu. From a close distance, I could see that E's face was red. It seemed that she had been crying all the time. However, her face was pale. It seemed that she was frightened or dehydrated. I took a step forward and reached out to grab E from Wang Lu-er's hands. However, I was pushed away by the man next to her. After the man finished counting the money, he looked at Wang Lu-er and said, "Miss, the money is correct. It's all real. However, it's not a serial number. It looks like it was pieced together." Wang Lu-er sneered at me and said, "It seems that you care a lot about your daughter." Chapter 242. Don't say useless things. Quickly return E to me. I'll give you the money, and we're even. Looking at E's appearance, my heart ached. I wanted to take her away from here as soon as possible. I didn't know if I had left a shadow in her heart. If so, it might become a scar for her life. Kneel down. Wang Lu-er looked at me and said with contempt, "What?" I looked at her in confusion. I didn't expect her to make such an unreasonable request. "I want you to kneel down." Wang Lu raised her voice and shouted at me. I looked at her and said, "That's impossible. You think too much. Wang Lu, don't go too far. I've already agreed to your request and brought the money. You should return E to me. Why should I kneel down in front of you?" Wang Lu looked at me and sneered. In front of me, she stretched out her hand and pinched E's arm. E shouted loudly and cried even harder. My heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Wang Lu looked at me and said, "Are you going to kneel down or not?" "You." I was so angry that I couldn't speak. Seeing that I didn't kneel down, Wang Lu once again pinched E's arm. E's cries pierced my heart. Okay. I'll kneel down and beg you not to hurt my daughter." Wang Lu sneered and looked at me as she let go of E's arm. I looked at her, afraid that she would hurt E again. I had no choice but to kneel down in front of her. I lowered my head. I had never knelt down in front of anyone in my life. This shame, I must make her pay back double. Wang Lu looked at me and said again, "Kneel down with both legs. Otherwise, I'll torture your daughter." Her vicious threat made me unable to refuse. I lowered my head and knelt down in front of her. After seeing me kneel down, she laughed loudly. Her laughter sounded particularly harsh. I didn't raise my head to look at her. Wang Lu looked at me and sneered. She said to the people around her, "Hey, do you know who she is? She is the daughter of the Red Ming Hui of a city, and now she is kneeling down in front of me for the sake of a child. Look at her, she is as useless as a dog, and a dog that doesn't bark." The people around her also laughed along with her. Swallowing my humiliation, I lowered my head and asked softly, "Can you return my daughter to me now?" "I can, but you have to shout it out loud. You cold glaze are a slut who only knows how to seduce men. If you say it, I'll let your daughter go." Wang Lu squatted down and placed E on the ground. She pulled the towel out of E's mouth and looked at E. "Little darling, hurry up and persuade your mother. Otherwise, you'll be tortured by me." I raised my head and looked at E. Her eyes were full of tears. She looked at me and softly said, "Mother." Seeing E like this, I made up my mind. No matter what kind of humiliation I had to suffer, I would save E. I looked at Wang Lu. She was still looking at me with an extremely arrogant expression. I said softly, "Okay, I'll say it. I, Cold Glaze, am a slut who only knows how to seduce men. Is that good enough?" "Speak louder. Are you trying to scare the mosquitoes?" Wang Lu looked at me impatiently. I closed my eyes and shouted loudly, "I, Cold Glaze, am a slut who only knows how to seduce men. Is that good enough?" Hearing me shout like this, they all laughed together. Wang Lu looked at me and reached out to grab my face. "Yes," she said softly. "Look at your eyes. You look quite good. How could you be a slut who only knows how to seduce men? What a waste of your face." I shook off Wang Lu's hand and looked at her. "Give E back to me." Okay, I'll give her back to you." "Look, you're angry." Wang Lu then let go of E's hand, and E ran into my arms. I hugged her tightly. I swore that I would never let her leave me again and get hurt again. Holding E, I ignored Wang Lu and turned around to leave this place. But before I could take 2 steps, I was stopped by 2 men. I held E tightly and shouted, "What do you mean?" "I just promised you that I would give E back to you after you brought the money. I've done it now." Wang Lu held my arm and smiled proudly. I held E, afraid that she would get hurt again. Before I could react, a man behind me swung a stick and hit me on the back. I lost my center of gravity and fell to the ground with E in my arms. E was so scared that she started crying again. I tried to calm E down. I held E in my arms, afraid that they would do something to E. Several people came towards me with sticks. I knew that they were coming for me. I held E in my arms and E leaned against me. I knew that I was the only one she could rely on now. Those sticks all hit me. Although it was very painful, I endured it for E's safety. I had to ensure E's safety. She must not get hurt. After a round of violent beating, they finally stopped. I let go of E, and E was still in my arms. Fortunately, she was not hurt at all. Blood flowed from the corner of my mouth. E reached out to wipe the blood from the corner of my mouth. Her face was full of tears. I reached out to wipe the tears from her face and said, "Silly, Mommy is fine. Mommy is fine. Don't worry." Yo, 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 what a pair of mother and daughter. But it's useless. Let me tell you, Cold Glaze, I hate you. When Duanmuke and I were together, all he thought about was you. How ridiculous. Even when he was drunk, he talked about you. This really makes me unhappy. Do you think I will let you walk out of here alive? What a rare opportunity for me to deal with you. Do you think I won't cherish it? I forced myself to raise my head. I looked at Wang Lu and said softly, "I don't care what you do to me, but can you let my daughter go first? Even if I beg you, the child is innocent. You can kill me, but I beg you to let my daughter go." Wang Lu sneered and waved at me. I forced myself to stand up. I looked at E and said softly, "E, listen to Mommy. Daddy is outside. Hurry up and go find him. You must listen to Mommy, okay?" E shook her head with all her might. She looked at me and said, "Mommy, Mommy, I don't want to leave you." I stroked E's hair and said softly, "Be good. Hurry up and go." I whispered into E's ear, "Dad is right outside. You just have to inform Dad, okay? E, hurry up and go." I pushed E toward the door. Chapter 243. E turned to look at me, then ran out of the door, crying. Looking at her receding figure, I let out a long sigh. E was out of danger, so there was nothing for me to worry about. I wanted her to be safe, and there was Red Baron and Suri outside to protect E. E would definitely reach on. How soon? That was enough. Her safety was more important than anything else. Before I could react, I was hit hard on the back. I lost my balance and fell to the ground. I struggled to get up. Just as I turned around, a stick came at me. I couldn't dodge it and fell to the ground again. Because I blocked it with my arm, the stick hit my arm hard. My arm hurt. I raised my head and looked at Wang. She was looking at me with a cold expression. I knew she had been looking forward to this day for a long time. I looked at her with a sneer. Wang Lu looked at me and said, "This is just the beginning. How do you feel?" "Originally, I wanted to vent my anger on you and your daughter, but since you are pleading for your daughter, I will vent it all on you." Wang Lu walked in front of me and looked at me with a sneer. She stretched out her foot and kicked me to the ground. She snapped her fingers again, and several people walked towards me with sticks in their hands. I knew that a storm of beatings was about to hit me. After a round of beating, I didn't know how I survived. My whole body was stinging with pain. I fell to the ground, dying, and couldn't get up. Wang Lu came in front of me and stepped on my body with her heel, but I couldn't feel the pain. Wang Lu looked at me and said with a smile, "Is that all you can do? You really disappointed me. Tell me, why would Duanmuke take a fancy to you? Maybe it's because of the look in your eyes. In fact, instead of killing you, it's better to torture you slowly. That way, I can enjoy watching you die." Cold glaze. Don't think that no one can deal with you just because you are the eldest daughter of the Long family. Wang Lu pulled my hair and took out a pair of scissors from who knows where. She cut my hair, and I fell to the ground again. Her smile became even brighter. She cut my long hair, but I didn't have the strength to struggle. Seeing my long hair become short, Wang Lu squatted down. She reached out her hand and held my face. Looking at me, she smiled and said, "It's really unfair. Even short hair looks so good." Wang Lu let go of my hand and threw me to the ground. She turned to look at a man next to her and said, "Forget it. I've played enough. Deal with it." A man took out a knife from his pocket. He walked towards me and held the knife to my neck. At this moment, I wasn't nervous at all. What I was thinking about the most was the warm memories of the past. I thought about the time I spent with Duanmuke, with my parents, with Han Hao, with Suri, with the Red Baron, and with Xin Yao. I didn't die. I was still alive. I struggled and gradually regained consciousness. I slowly opened my eyes, and the first person that entered my line of sight was Han Hao. I didn't know why, but when I saw him for the first time, my heart calmed down a lot. My vision gradually cleared, and I saw Han Hao's handsome face. His face was covered in tears, as if he had suffered a lot. His sorrowful eyes made my heart ache. I tried my best to smile at him. Han Hao saw me smile, and he smiled too. No matter what happened, I would love him without hesitation. I would never leave him. Chapter 244. Han Hao wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. He looked at me and said, "Silly, I thought you didn't want me anymore. You finally came back to me. I really thought you left me." When the doctor gave me the notice of critical illness, I broke down. I didn't believe that you would leave me, so I didn't sign it. Luckily, I persisted and waited until you came back. I looked at him and smiled. "Well, aren't I back now? Don't worry, I'm fine." As soon as I finished speaking, the doctor walked into the room. He walked to my side and began to examine me. After a round of examination, the doctor looked at Han Hao and the others and said, "She's out of danger. She just needs to rest. She's not in a good condition to be in contact with people. Let's wait until she's better before visiting." "Wait a minute, doctor. I'm her fiancé. We've just been through a lot. I have a lot to say to her. Can I talk to her for a while?" Han Hao asked the doctor. The doctor looked at Han Hao's sincere eyes and said, "Okay, but don't take too long. The rest of you can leave first. We'll visit her when her condition is stable." The doctor left with Suri and the others. The Red Baron didn't come because he had to deal with the aftermath. Xin Yao stayed at home to take care of her parents and Yi. Suri took care of everything at the hospital. Among so many people, I didn't see Duanmu, Quebec. Only Han Hao and I were left in the room. Han Hao sat next to me and reached out to hold my hand. "Darling, I missed you so much. You don't know how worried I was when you went into the factory. When Yi came out, she told me that you were beaten up because you tried to protect her. I quickly called the Red Baron, and just as I was about to get out of the car, I saw Duanmuke rushing over with a group of people. He told me to take Yi home first, as I had to send her home to ensure her safety. After I sent her home, I received a call saying that you were seriously injured and sent to the hospital. After I helped Yi settle down, I hurried over here. Luckily, I saw you. Luckily, Yi found you safely. What happened next? Can you tell me?" Han Hao nodded. Duanmuke went to Wang Luer's house and told her father what happened. At first, Wang Luer's father didn't believe him, but he showed him the video of Yi being kidnapped. Her father immediately recognized the factory he had just acquired and was planning to develop. He believed that Wang Luer's doing. He was very angry, so he brought his men and Duanmuke to the factory. Yi was able to get out safely because she had the Red Baron and Suri's protection. When I saw how pitiful Yi was, I felt like my heart. "Oh, by the way, Yi is injured. Did you take her to the hospital to treat it?" I was worried about her. "Don't worry, E's injuries aren't serious, but I was worried that she would be traumatized by the kidnapping, so I called a private doctor over to give her a thorough examination. She's fine, so don't worry. Xinyao is still by E's side to take care of her. You, on the other hand, should take care of yourself first before thinking about anyone else. Han Hao looked at me and pursed his lips. I looked at him and smiled. It's okay. As long as E is safe, that's all that matters. When did I not take care of myself? Don't overthink it. I'm fine, aren't I? Han Hao glared at me. He looked at me and said angrily, "When did you take care of yourself?" "When I saw your medical records, I almost broke down. Do you know that? You have at least 3 broken bones, many bruises, and countless abrasions. You call this taking care of yourself? Tell me, how can I be at ease letting you live alone when you're like this?" "I'm not. I didn't do it on purpose. Don't you see that I'm usually fine? Isn't this a special situation? I promise I won't be like this in the future, okay? Don't be angry." I held Han Hao's hand and looked at Han Hao. He sighed helplessly. "Darling, I can't take it anymore. When you're discharged, let's get married." Han Hao looked at me seriously and said softly, "When you're discharged, let's get married. I don't want to delay it any longer." "Huh? Isn't this too rushed? You haven't prepared anything yet." I looked at Han Hao. I knew that he couldn't bear to let me leave him. I also knew that he loved me, and I also knew that I couldn't leave him. But this marriage was so rushed that I didn't know what to do. "You don't have to prepare anything. You just have to promise me. I'll take care of everything. You just have to quietly prepare to be your bride." Han Hao kissed me gently on the cheek. He looked at me and said, "It's about time. You should rest well. I'll go home and see ye. Then I'll ask Uncle and Auntie if they have any requests for the wedding. I'll do it all in one go. Rest well. Call me if there's anything. I'll see you tomorrow." Han Hao kissed me on the lips and left. I was the only one left in the ward. I let out a long sigh. I'd been awake for a long time and gradually felt the pain in my wounds getting stronger. When I woke up, it was already nighttime. I looked at my phone. Han Hao had called me a few times, but I didn't pick up because I was asleep. He had also left me a message. I looked at the time, and it was already past 11 p.m. I guessed that he was already asleep. I sent him a message, but after waiting for a while, there was still no reply. I told him to rest well. He had been busy for a long time and was already very tired. Actually, when I thought about him marrying me, I felt a little excited. I was also very happy to have such a person to rely on. Just then, I saw a shadow flash by the door of the ward. My nerves suddenly tensed up. I raised my head and looked at the door. I took out a knife from behind my pillow. Han Hao had purposely left it for me to defend myself. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. I shouted, "Who is it?" "Don't be afraid. I'm Duanmu, Quebec." "Are you asleep? Can I come in?" I recognized Duanmu K's voice. I let out a long sigh and said softly, "Come in. I'm not asleep yet." The door of the ward was pushed open, and Duanmu K walked in from outside. He was carrying an insulated lunchbox and a travel bag. He looked at me and smiled faintly. After he came in, he closed the door. Chapter 245. Duanmu K walked to my side. He put the lunchbox on the cabinet and a bunch of fruits in the cabinet. Then he sat down next to me. He looked at me with a calm expression, but I could see that his eyes were bloodshot. He probably didn't sleep well either. He reached out and covered me with the blanket. Then he looked at me and said, "Why aren't you asleep yet?" "I just woke up and saw that Han Hao called me a lot and sent me a lot of messages." I sent him a message, but he didn't reply. I guessed he was asleep, so I didn't disturb him. Then I saw a shadow at the door. I thought it was a bad guy, but I didn't expect it to be you. I sheathed the knife in my hand and gave him an awkward smile. "I just went to his house. I heard that he's going to marry you after you leave the hospital." I went to his house and saw Han Shu. I heard from Han Shu that in order to prepare for your wedding, He went home and packed his luggage. Then he left for another city. It seems like he's going to personally pick out the things he needs to prepare for your wedding. He's also very attentive to you. In order to protect you, he's been working very hard. That's why he didn't come to accompany you tonight. I know that Suri and the others still have a lot of things to deal with, so I quietly came over. Dwanmuke looked at me and told me everything that had happened. Thank you. I'm fine. I'm going to go back to sleep. When he's done, he can accompany me again, right? You've also been busy for a long time, so you should rest well. I smiled at Dwanmu, Quebec. I didn't know when it started, but the relationship between the two of us had become very awkward. At this moment, my stomach growled. I felt even more embarrassed. Dwanmuke looked at me and laughed. He looked at me and said, "You must be hungry after sleeping for so long. I made some shark fin porridge. It shouldn't be cold yet. Hurry up and eat it." Then, Dwanmuke took the lunchbox and opened the lid. A burst of shark fin porridge aroma assailed my nose. My stomach growled even louder. He took a spoon and stirred it evenly. Then, he scooped a spoonful and gently blew on it. He held it in front of me. I glanced at him and drank the porridge. It tasted good. It seemed that Dwanmuke had put a lot of effort into making it. Dwanmuke looked at me and fed me spoonful by spoonful. Soon, I finished the porridge. After eating, I felt very satisfied. I patted my bulging belly and looked at Dwanmuke with a silly smile. Dwanmuke looked at me and smiled. He reached out to stroke my hair and looked at me lovingly. His gaze seemed to bring me back to the good times when I was with him. My face was a little red. I turned my head and didn't dare to look at Dwanmuke again. Dwanmuke took out an apple from the cabinet and peeled it. He whispered to me, "Shaoli, I know you came to the hospital in a hurry, so I specially brought you something to eat. There are snacks you like, fruits, and some bread. If you're really hungry, eat some. If it's not enough, tell me, and I'll buy more." Okay, I know. Actually, you don't have to go through so much trouble. I'm only suffering from external injuries. I won't stay in the hospital for long. I'll be fine once I'm discharged. I always felt that while chatting with Dwanmuke, he was advancing while I was retreating. I had a feeling of being oppressed. It was as if Dwanmuke could eat me up at any moment. Dwanmuke looked at me. He must have realized that I was avoiding the topic. He sighed and then said softly, "Okay, you're full. You should rest early. Don't worry, I'll be right by your side. I won't leave you tonight. You're a patient, so you should rest well." I lay on the bed. Dwanmuke covered me with a blanket. I closed my eyes and fell asleep, but I couldn't sleep at all. I didn't know if it was because I was conflicted to be with Dwanmuke, or because it was too awkward. Or maybe it was because I'd slept for an entire afternoon, but I couldn't sleep at all. I just closed my eyes. My mind was in a mess. I could hear Dwanmuke sighing as he sat beside me. After a while, Dwanmuke said softly, "Shaoli, I'm sorry. I never knew that you were so important to me. As for Wang Luer, I had no choice. Everyone in the city probably knows about what happened to the Kurosua. Wang Luer's father threatened me to marry Wang Lu in the name of helping my father. He said that if I didn't marry Wang Lu he wouldn't invest in the Kurosua. My father couldn't withstand the pressure and agreed. I don't have any feelings for that woman. You know, my parents' health isn't good. I was afraid that something bad would happen to them. So I endured the humiliation and agreed. I'm sorry, Shaoli, do you know? My feelings for you have never changed. I really don't want to leave you. I really want to stay by your side and protect you, but I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to protect you. All I can do is help you when you need it. Compared to me, Han Hao is more suitable for you. Seeing how he cares for you so much, seeing how much he cares for you, I'm envious from the bottom of my heart, but I'm also jealous. But no matter what, I want you to be happy. He can give you happiness, so I'm satisfied." I only listened to Dwanmuke's words. I pretended to be asleep and didn't dare to answer him. Answer him what? Answer him if I still have feelings for him in my heart? It would be a lie to say that I didn't love him, but in this situation, it was best to wish each other happiness. At this moment, Duanmu-ke continued, but I'm already very satisfied now. I didn't expect you to be pregnant. Now that I've calmed down and thought about it, when you were pregnant, I was so violent towards you. How difficult it must have been for you to keep this child. I'm really an animal. I didn't even consider your feelings. Shaoli, I'm really sorry, but seeing ye being so obedient and sensible under your tutelage, I feel very gratified. If she lived with me, it wouldn't be like this. Don't worry, when you and Han Hao get married, I won't take E away from you. I know that E likes Han Hao, perhaps in her eyes. Han Hao is the image of a father in her heart. I don't want to break them apart either. Seeing the two of you happy together, I'm already satisfied. Shaoli, no matter what, as long as you're happy, that's enough. Listening to Duanmu-ke's tone of voice, I could feel his helplessness. He was indeed facing a lot of difficulties now. I didn't know why, but when I heard him say that, I suddenly felt that he was very pitiful. I wanted to care for him, wanted to give him some comfort, but what kind of identity should I face him with? Chapter 246. After that, Duanmu-ke didn't say anything else. I started to feel sleepy and slept deeply. When I woke up, it was already the next day. When I woke up, I didn't see Duanmu, Quebec. I was the only one left in the room. Maybe he had already left. It seemed like he had stayed with me the whole night. Maybe he was too tired, so he left first. When I woke up, I was very hungry. Maybe it was because I was sick, but I ate a lot. I looked at the table and saw only a lunchbox. According to what Duanmu-ke had told me, the food should be in the cupboard. My arm was still in a splint. I struggled to crawl to the side of the bed and stretched out my uninjured arm towards the cupboard. It looked like I was about to reach it, but I was already at my limit. At that moment, the door to the room was pushed open. Duanmu-ke walked in with another lunchbox in his hand. When he saw me lying on the side of the bed, he was frightened. He shouted, "Don't move." I looked up at him and stopped moving. He quickly ran to me and put the lunchbox on the cupboard. Then he helped me up and put a pillow behind my back. Then he sat in front of me and looked at me with a serious face. "What are you doing? Why are you moving around? I just went out to get you some food, and you came to the side of the bed. What if you fell down? Are you going to continue with the cast?" I smiled awkwardly. "It's okay. I've already had 2 casts. One more won't make a difference." Duanmu-ke glared at me. "You're still talking nonsense." Fortunately, nothing happened. If something had happened, how would I explain it to everyone? I looked at Duanmu-ke, who was really angry. I didn't say anything else and hid under the blanket, only showing my eyes to look at him. Duanmu-ke sighed and opened the new lunchbox. He looked at me and said, "This is the breakfast I asked the nanny to prepare this morning. It's prepared according to your usual preferences. Come and try it." I looked at Duanmu-ke, but didn't dare to come out from under the blanket. Duanmu-ke looked at me and shook his head helplessly. All right. I apologize. Hurry up and eat. The food is getting cold." Seeing the Duanmu-ke apologize to me, I smiled and sat up from the blanket. I looked at the breakfast on the cabinet. It was all my favorite food. There were soup dumplings, cold dishes, soy milk, and scallion pancakes. Since I couldn't move, I had to ask the Duanmu-ke to feed me. He was very patient and fed me mouthful by mouthful. Halfway through breakfast, the door to the ward was suddenly pushed open. Han Hao walked in with a pile of breakfast. When he saw me and Duanmu-ke, the 3 of us froze. Duanmu-ke put down the bowl and looked at Han Hao. "Xiao Hao, I went to your house last night. Uncle Lung said that you went out of town to prepare for your wedding. I know that Suri and the others are very busy and don't have time to take care of Shaoli, so I came over. Last night, I watched her sleep, and this morning, I brought her breakfast." Han Hao glanced at me, and I nodded. Then Han Hao looked at Duanmu-ke and said, "Thank you for taking care of Shaoli. I just came back from out of town and didn't have time to go home. I bought some breakfast and came over. Let's eat together. Han Hao pulled a stool from the side and sat next to Duanmu Quebec. Han Hao also put the food he brought on the cabinet. He bought all my favorite foods, including fried dough sticks, tofu pudding, and poached eggs. Since Han Hao was here, Duanmu K didn't feed me. I put the bowl on the cabinet and ate with my uninjured hand. Han Hao and Duanmu K sat across from me. The two of them were also eating breakfast, but the three of us didn't speak. After breakfast, Duanmu K took the initiative to clean up the things on the cabinet. Then he looked at Han Hao and me and said softly, Xiao Hao, you two stay here. I'm leaving first. I'll take the trash with me. If there's anything, call me. If there's nothing, why are you in such a hurry to go back? Han Hao looked at Duanmu K and asked. Duanmu K was stunned. I haven't been home for 2 days. I don't know how Mom and Dad are doing. I have to go back and see them. Duanmu K smiled at the two of us and turned to leave the room. At this time, Han Hao turned to look at me. Do you believe him? Huh? Believe what? I looked at Han Hao in confusion. Do you believe that Xiao K left because of this reason? Han Hao reached out and touched my face. I thought for a moment and shook my head. He looked at me and said, I don't believe it either. He just felt that it was too awkward to stay between the two of us. I leaned on Han Hao's hand and looked at him. He looked tired. It seemed that he had been busy the whole night. I still had at least 20 days before I would be discharged. I didn't know why he was in such a hurry. I looked at him and said, You look tired. You didn't sleep last night, did you? You have stubble on your face. Han Hao reached out and touched it, then softly said to me, Yeah, I didn't sleep well last night, so I went to my friend's place to order the furniture. When he heard that I was in a hurry to get married, he was quite surprised. He chatted with me all night and finally ordered the furniture. When we finished talking, I looked at the time and saw that it was already morning. I saw the message you left for me. I knew that you would have a problem eating breakfast after waking up, so I hurried back. I found your favorite breakfast shop in the suburbs, then bought breakfast and came over. But I didn't expect to see Duanmu, Quebec. I knew that he was jealous. I looked at him and said, Xiaoke was right. He really did come to accompany me. He knew that you guys couldn't accompany me, so he came. Don't think too much. I don't have anything to do with him anymore. I held Han Hao's hand. I knew what he was worried about. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. I know, but I know that he has feelings for you. He must have said something to you yesterday. If he really saw you as a friend, he wouldn't be in such a hurry to leave when he saw me. So, he must have a guilty conscience. Hearing Han Hao say that, I was stunned. Duanmu K really did say a lot of things to me yesterday, but I pretended not to hear it. Now that Han Hao said that, I felt uncomfortable. I sighed. I pulled Han Hao's hand and said, You're thinking too much again. Didn't we agree not to talk about unhappy things? What you need to think about now is being together with me. Being a Red Minghui's son-in-law isn't easy. In the future, Father will give you a lot of tasks for the Red Minghui. When the time comes, you'll be busy. Don't even think about running away, you can't. I had no choice but to change the topic. Chapter 247. Han Hao looked at me and said, Forget it. I don't want to talk about it. You won't be happy if I talk too much. I don't want to make you unhappy. I smiled at Han Hao. I hooked my arm around his neck and kissed him on the cheek. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He gently stroked my hair with a doting look on his face. Just then, the door to the ward was pushed open. Xin Yao and the others walked in with Yi. When Yi saw me, she burst into tears. I felt bad seeing her cry. Han Hao stood up and carried Yi to take off her shoes. Then, he carried her to the bed and placed her next to me. Yi hugged me tightly and looked at me as she cried. I hugged her tightly and said softly, Baby girl, why are you crying so hard? Don't worry. Mommy is here. Yi hugged me and cried loudly, Mommy, I missed you so much. Mommy, you didn't sleep with me last night. Mommy, I missed you so much. I suddenly felt relieved. Seeing that he cared about me so much, I was very happy. I hugged her and said softly, "Be good. Mommy hasn't been feeling well for the past 2 days. Mommy will stay with you when she gets better. Okay? Stay by Grandma's side during this time. Okay? Mommy promises that I will come back to stay with you as soon as I get better." Just then, the Red Baron came in with a bunch of fruits and food. She looked at me and was stunned. Then she sighed and shook her head. I felt that she was a little strange. I handed it to Han Hao. Then I looked at the Red Baron and asked softly, "What's wrong with the Red Baron? Why do I feel that you are in low spirits? Did something happen?" The Red Baron glanced at Han Hao and then looked at me. "I have some bad news to tell you. Although your body is in such a condition, I still feel that I should tell you this." I didn't understand what the Red Baron meant. I looked at her and asked softly, "What's wrong with the Red Baron?" That day, Wang Luer was taken away by her father, and when the police arrived, they only arrested her friends, but didn't catch Wang Luer. They said that there wasn't enough evidence, so they didn't arrest her. I asked around, and I heard that when she returned home, she was grounded by her father, and all her followers were grounded. I heard that Wang Luer's father dotes on her very much, and he actually grounded her this time. It seems that he is really angry. Originally it was pretty good, but for some reason, Wang Luer ran away from home in the middle of the night. Now, no one knows where she has escaped to. I have inquired about their other addresses, and I have also gone there, but I didn't find her. I think it's very strange, and I'm afraid that she will harm you. You'd better be careful. What? She ran away? She went to look for my brother? Oh my God, she couldn't have really gone, right? It's over. Dad and Mom are in danger. Xin Yao cried out in surprise. Hearing them say that, I realized the seriousness of the matter. If Wang Luer had really run away, she might have gone to look for the Duanmuke first. However, the Duanmuke was with me yesterday. Duan Mutachio and Xiao Fenya were really in danger. I couldn't sit still anymore. I sat up on the bed and looked at Han Hao. "No, I have to go to the Duanmu's house quickly. Dad and Mom are in danger. Suri, hurry up and call the police. Tell them that Wang Luer ran away. Red Baron, let's hurry to the Duanmu's house. Mom and Dad won't be able to endure it." I sat up on the bed and put on my shoes. Just as I was about to leave, Han Hao reached out and held me in his arms. I struggled and said to him, "Xiao Hao, let go of me. No matter what, I can't let Mom and Dad get hurt. Xiao Hao, I'm begging you, let me go." Han Hao looked at me and said softly, "Dear, it's not that I don't want you to go. I'll go with you. No matter what the problem is this time, please let me face it with you, okay?" I looked at him and nodded. The few of us packed up and left for the Duanmu's house. The Red Baron went back to my house first and handed everything to my parents. He also explained the situation. Han Hao drove very fast. He knew that I was very worried. Xin Yao was crying the whole way. I knew that her ability to take a blow wasn't very good. No matter what, I had to do my best to ensure the safety of the Duanmu's family. When we arrived at the Duanmu's house, we stopped the car and found that the Duanmu's house was deserted. Soon, I felt that something was wrong. At this time, Han Hao put his arm around my shoulder and said softly, "Don't be afraid, dear. I'll always be by your side. Later, you can hide behind me. If anything happens, I'll take care of it." I nodded and the few of us walked in. As soon as we pushed open the door to the living room, we were shocked. The living room was a mess. Things were scattered all over the floor. We didn't know that there was no one in the living room. The whole house was dead silent. We stood in the living room and looked around, but we didn't see anyone. At this time, the door to the study room was pushed open. I heard Wang Luer's ear-piercing voice. She looked at us and smiled. "You guys came pretty fast. If you hadn't come, I can't guarantee that these two old men wouldn't have been able to hold on until you arrived." Wang Luer sneered and pushed out 2 chairs from the side. Duan Mutachio and Xiao Fenya sat on them. They were tied to the chairs. Duan Mutachio's complexion wasn't good. It seemed that he had high blood pressure. Xiao Fengya's complexion was even worse. She was injured. It seemed that Wang Lu had attacked them. Xin Yao looked at Duan Mutachio and Xiao Fengya and lost control of her emotions. She cried loudly. Suri hugged her tightly, afraid that she would do something stupid. I clenched my fists and looked at Wang Lu. Wang Lu, I'm the one you wanted to deal with. I'm here. Hurry up and let them go. The Duanmu's family didn't do anything wrong to you. If you want to do something, come at me. I won't hide. Do you think I'm stupid? There are so many of you here. Do you think I'm stupid enough to believe your words? These two old bastards have long found me an eyesore. What I did to them is already light. You want me to let them go? Dream on. Wang Lu looked at me with a sneer. Her current appearance was like a devil. Where is Duan Muke? What did you do to him? Han Hao looked at her and asked loudly. Indeed, I hadn't seen Duan Muke until now. Did he not come back? Wang Lu sneered. She walked to the side and pulled out 2 ropes. One was tied to Duan Muke, and the other was tied to Yu Xian. Duan Muke wasn't injured, but Yu Xian was very miserable. Chapter 248. Yu Xian's body was covered in blood. Her clothes were torn, and we could vaguely see her underwear. Her hair was disheveled, and she was lying on the ground. It seemed Wang Lu really wanted to kill her. At this time, Duan Muke slightly opened his eyes. When he saw us, he said in a low voice, You, why are you here? Hurry up and leave. It's dangerous. I looked at Duanmu Quebec looking at his injured appearance. I felt really helpless. Wang Lu walked to Duan Muke's side. She stretched out her hand and slapped Duan Muke's face. Wang Lu shouted, Shut up. They're willing to die. Why do you care about them? You never had me in your heart. Look at that cold glaze. That woman is like a slut. What do you like about her? I couldn't bear to let her torture Duan Muke anymore. I looked at Wang Lu and shouted, Hurry up and let them go. Wang Lu, you can't escape. Don't do too many things. It will only aggravate your crime. At this time, Duan Muke looked at Wang Lu and said, Okay, I'm begging you. Please let my parents and Yu Xian go. You can do whatever you want to me, okay? I'm begging you. Wang Lu smiled and said, Okay, since you're begging me, I'll give you face. I can let those 2 old things go, but as for that slut, I can't let her go. Wang Lu glared at Yu Xian. Yu Xian was still lying on the ground. Wang Lu walked to Yu Xian's side and squatted down. She sneered and tore Yu Xian's clothes. I heard waves of screams coming from Yu Xian. After a while, Wang Lu finally stopped abusing Yu Xian. She stood up. I looked at Yu Xian, who was lying on the ground. She didn't have anything to cover her body. Yu Xian lay on the ground, crying from time to time. Wang Lu clapped her hands and turned to look at us. I promised Duan Muke that I would let his parents go. Wang Lu hooked her finger at us. Xin Yao and Suri quickly ran over. The 2 of them brought Duan Mutachio and Xiao Fengya out of the study. When they came to me, I gave them a simple check. Duan Mutachio and Xiao Fengya. Sure enough, Duan Mutachio had high blood pressure. I quickly took out some medicine from a living room and gave it to him. Duan Mutachio's complexion visibly improved. I turned to look at Xiao Fengya. Although her injuries were minor, they still needed to be treated carefully. I turned to look at Xin Yao and said softly, Hurry up and take Dad and Mom to the hospital. Dad's situation is very dangerous, and Mom's injuries are also very serious. You have to go to the hospital quickly. We'll take care of things here. I looked at Xin Yao and patted her shoulder. Suri nodded. He pulled Xin Yao and quickly brought Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya out of the Duanmu's house. Only Han Hao and I were left. Wang Lu looked at me and sneered. What do you think? I kept my word, didn't I? Wang Lu walked in front of Duanmu Quebec. She reached out and hugged Duan, Quebec. Then, in front of me, she kissed him on the lips. Duan kept resisting, but Wang Luer didn't let him resist. She tightly gripped Duan neck, feeling as if he was about to suffocate. Let go of him. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I shouted at Wang Luer. Wang Luer raised her head and sneered at me. She let go of Duan and threw Duan to the ground. Duan lay on the ground, coughing violently. Wang Luer flicked her hair and looked at me. Okay, I don't want to talk nonsense with you anymore. It's time to put an end to this. Wang Luer pulled out a gun from her handbag and pointed it at me. With a cold smile, she said to me, "Other than me and Duan, none of you will be able to leave this room alive. Since you want to be with Han Hao for the rest of your life, then I'll fulfill your wish." She pointed the gun at me, a devilish smile on her face, making people feel especially gloomy. Han Hao hugged me and put me behind him. In a soft voice, he said, "Xiaoli, don't be afraid. I'll stay by your side. When you find an opportunity, run away. No matter what, don't put yourself in danger, okay?" Han Hao tightly held my hand. I could feel his nervousness. Wang Luer looked at me and laughed loudly. "Cold glaze. You bitch, go to hell." The moment the gunshot rang out, I grabbed Han Hao's arm and pulled him behind me. I stood in front of him and closed my eyes. I smiled bitterly in my heart. Maybe I would have to die again. I suddenly felt a lot of reluctance. I had already promised to marry Han Hao and had just returned from the gates of hell. Now, I had to face death again. I suddenly felt very sad. I was waiting for the feeling of the bullet piercing through my chest, but I didn't feel it at all. I opened my eyes, and then my tears covered them. Xin rushed in front of me and blocked the bullet for me. Xin turned around and looked at me, blood flowing from the corner of her mouth. I looked at Xin. It was the first time I saw her eyes so clear. When Wang Luer saw that Xin had blocked the bullet for me, she angrily fired a few more shots at Xin. Xin's eyes widened. Xin. I quickly ran in front of Xin and hugged her. Her body was covered in blood. I looked at Xin and whispered, "Why are you so stupid? You should live well." Xin looked at me and smiled. "I owe you, and I can only repay it with my life. Cold glaze, I don't have the fortune to live with Duan in this life. I hope you can take care of him. I'm sorry, Cold glaze. You must live well." Xin's hand on my face suddenly slid down. The tears on my face couldn't stop flowing down. I loudly called out Xin's name. Xin. Xin. Why are you so stupid?" I hugged her. Although she wasn't my friend, she had sacrificed her life for me. How could I repay this kindness? Wang Luer seemed to be in shock. She probably didn't think that she would really kill someone. However, I couldn't care less. I just hugged Xin and sat there crying. Han Hao reacted quickly. He ran in front of Wang Luer and snatched the gun from her hand, pressing her to the ground. At this moment, the Red Baron came in with the police. The police took Wang Luer and Xin's body away. I was still very emotional. Han Hao stayed by my side. He hugged me tightly. I leaned on his shoulder and cried my heart out. So many things had happened today, and I couldn't accept it all at once. Duan sat on the sofa. The medical staff had just come to treat his wounds. He had to go to the police station later to make a statement. Chapter 249. At this moment, a police officer walked over to us. He looked at us and said, "Hello, Miss Long. We need you to cooperate with us to make a statement at the police station. Thank you." Han Hao glanced at me, then looked at the police officer and said, "I'm sorry. Because we predicted that Wang Luer might come to Duanmu's house, my fiancée, and I didn't have time to get her discharged. My fiancée isn't feeling well, so she can't go to the police station to make statement. How about this? I'll take her back to the hospital first, and then I'll go there. Is that okay?" Han Hao saw that the police officer was hesitant, So he continued, "How about you send a police officer to go with us to the hospital?" The police officer thought for a moment, then looked at Han Hao and said, "That's the only way. I'll arrange for someone to go with you to the hospital later." He turned to look at Duanmu and said, "Mr. Duanmu, we'll have to trouble you to come with us to the police station." Duanmu weakly opened his eyes and nodded. Han Hao brought me to the hospital room and left with the police officer. I called Suri. It turned out that Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya had also been sent to the hospital. After asking around for their specific location, I thought for a moment and decided to go and see them. I went to the door of Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya's room. Through the glass of the room, I saw Duanmu Tachio lying on the bed with many tubes inserted into his body. His eyes were tightly shut. Xinyao leaned on Suri's shoulder and cried softly. Xiao Fengya had also woken up. She sat next to Duanmu Tachio, her face streaked with tears. I let out a long breath and pushed the door open to enter the room. Xiao Fengya raised her head and looked at me. Her eyes were moist again. I walked to her side and reached out to touch her hand. "Mom, you're awake. Are you feeling better?" I whispered. Xiao Fengya reached out to wipe her tears. "I'm fine. I'm much better. But your dad." Xiao Fengya choked with sobs. I looked at Duanmu Tachio and held Xiao Fengya's hand tightly. "Mom, it's okay. Dad will definitely get better." I sighed. They had always treated me well, as if I were their own daughter. I had always thought of them as my own parents. Now that I saw Duanmu Tachio lying in front of me, my heart felt very uncomfortable. Xiao Fengya sighed and looked at Xinyao. "Xinyao, you and Suri go out for a moment. I have something to say to Xiao Li. You guys go buy some lunch. You haven't eaten anything since morning." Xinyao nodded and left with Suri. After they left, I looked at Xiao Fengya and asked, "Mom, what's wrong? Did something happen?" Xiao Fengya tightly held my hand and softly said, "Xiao Li, Mom and Dad are sorry. We're really sorry." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Mom, don't say that. You and Dad have always been good to me. In fact, this is also my responsibility." I didn't expect that Wang Luer would do this to you and Dad in order to get revenge on me. It's all my fault. If I had realized it earlier, then this wouldn't have happened. Xiao Fengya shook her head and said to me, "This matter has nothing to do with you. Your father and I were really wrong. When I first saw Wang Luer, I knew she wasn't a good person. But you should have heard that after such a big thing happened in the Kurosawa, our family's finances were already unable to make ends meet. It was rare to have a lifesaver like Wang Luer. So how could we be willing to let her go?" Wang Luer's father said that as long as married Wang Luer, he would invest in the Kurosawa. I knew didn't like her, but he couldn't dissuade his father. In the end, for the sake of the family, agreed. When that girl was in our family, she was lawless. She threw things at all day long and even pushed him. But never resisted. I knew he could endure anything for the Kurosawa. Sometimes your father and I couldn't stand it anymore and would stop her. But later on, she would pretend to be obedient in front of us. When she was with the Duanmu, she became a completely different person. Sometimes I felt like she was a female hooligan. She forced the Duanmu to have sex with her more than once. I knew that it wasn't K's will. As a mother, seeing her own child endure such humiliation, I felt very uncomfortable. I wanted to talk to several times, but he always avoided seeing us. "Xiao Li, if you didn't get divorced at that time, your life would be very happy right now. Xiao Li, Mom and Dad let you down. We really let you down." Xiao Fengya cried even harder. I pulled Xiao Fengya's hand and said softly, "Mom, don't think about it anymore. It's all in the past. Although Wang Luer escaped once, she will definitely be punished by the law this time. After all, a life for a life." "What? A life for a life? What's wrong? What's wrong with who?" Xiao Fengya looked at me and asked in confusion. I lowered my head, looked at Xiao Fengya, and said softly, "Mom, I'm sorry. In order to save me, you took a bullet for me. She was killed by Wang. I couldn't stop my tears from flowing out. Heavens. Xiao Fengya covered her mouth and cried even harder. Choking with sobs, she said, "Poor Exan. She was so young. How could she?" Xiao Fengya cried very sadly. I could only tightly hold her hand and silently stay by her side. After Xiao Fengya calmed down, she looked at me and said softly, "Xiaoli, don't feel guilty. Actually, when you were in our house, Xian also did a lot of bad things to you." "Ah, Mom, you knew?" I looked at Xiao Fengya in surprise. Could it be that she already knew? If she already knew, then why didn't she stop it? Xiao Fengya nodded, then looked at me and said, "Actually, I only found out this morning after Wang Lu came to our house and kidnapped us." She used the same method to deal with Wang Lu but Wang Lu wasn't as magnanimous as you. She beat you Xin very badly. I only found out at that time. She had framed you so many times and caused you to fall down the stairs and lose your child. She also seduced Duanmuke and caused the conflict between the two of you. Xiaoli, don't hate her anymore, okay? Although she's only my adopted daughter, I raised her for so long, and I still love her very much. No matter what, she shouldn't have used her life as an apology. Xiaoli, promise Mom, don't hate her anymore, okay? Xiao Fengya looked at me with pleading eyes. I knew she was a kind woman, and none of this was her fault. After all, she didn't know what Xian did, and Xian had already left this world, so I didn't need to hate her anymore. Chapter 250. I looked at Xiao Fengya and said, "Mom, it's all in the past. There's no need to hold a grudge. I've always believed in fate. Maybe it wanted me to live that way back then. Isn't everything fine now? Mom, don't think too much about it. Xin will definitely go to heaven." I said that to make Xiao Fengya feel at ease. Her current physical condition wasn't very good. If she suffered too much at once, she wouldn't be able to bear it. So I could only say some comforting words to make her feel better. At this moment, the door of the ward was pushed open. My parents walked in with E. When my mother saw Duan Mutachio lying on the bed, her eyes turned red. She walked to Xiao Fengya and hugged her tightly. My mother said softly, "Xiaoya, it must have been hard on you. I just received a call from Han Hao and rushed over. How could such a big thing happen? How is Li Xiong?" Xiao Fengya smiled bitterly and said, "It's all in the past. Li Xiong is very good. He just passed the critical period. All of this is like a dream, but I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm really sorry that I had to trouble you to come here. What's there to be sorry about? This is what I should do. We've been sisters for so many years. No matter what, I should come and see you. It's just that Lier didn't tell me about such a big thing. If it weren't for Han, Hao, I wouldn't have known that such a big thing had happened." My mother looked at me with obvious dissatisfaction. "I don't talk about Xiaoli. Xiaoli is also injured. This is all our fault. If we hadn't led the wolf into the house, Wang Lu wouldn't have become so lawless. But she's already been taken away by the police. This time, she won't escape again." Xiao Fengya probably thought about Xian's death and felt even worse. Her eyes were moist again. Then E ran from her father to me. She hugged my leg tightly, looked up at me, and whispered, "Mommy, I missed you so much." Looking at E's cute appearance, I couldn't carry her with my injured arm. I squatted down and looked at her. "E, have you been obedient to your grandparents? You haven't forgotten what your mother told you to do, right?" I stroked E's hair. With her by my parents' side, I felt at ease. E is very obedient. I've done everything Mommy told me to do. When E smiled, she looked a bit like Duanmu Quebec. Xiao Fengya looked at E for a long time. Then she whispered to me, "Xiaoli, is this your daughter?" I stood up and looked at her. I knew that sooner or later, E's identity couldn't be hidden. I might as well tell her. I looked at my parents. They didn't say anything. They just looked at me silently. They respected my decision and wanted me to solve this problem. I thought for a moment and looked at Xiao Fengya. "Mom, this is my daughter. Her name is Lunglingyu. We all call her E. She's my daughter. I paused and looked at her. She's also Duanmukei's daughter. What? Xiao Fengya looked at me with wide eyes. I nodded. She turned to look at my mother. My mother nodded helplessly. Xiao Fengya still couldn't believe it. She reached out and took my hand. What's going on? She asked softly. I let out a long breath and looked at Xiao Fengya. Mom, actually, before I divorced Duanmukei, I was already pregnant. At the time, I knew, but I didn't know how to face Xiao, Quebec. At the time, I still loved him before he lost his memories. Although I couldn't bear to part with him, I still couldn't accept being with him. So we decided to divorce. After the divorce, I went to America to give birth to E. E and I stayed in America for more than 2 years and just came back a while ago. Xiao Kei didn't know about this either. He only found out a while ago. Everyone else knew, but I didn't let them tell you or Dad. If you knew, it would be a burden for you. I still have the ability to take care of my daughter by myself, so I didn't want you to worry. I told Xiao Fengya everything that had happened. Xiao Fengya's surprised expression didn't change. She walked in front of E and squatted down. She looked at E, and E was a little scared. She hid behind my legs. I looked at E and said softly, E, don't be scared. This is your grandma. E looked at me, and then looked at Xiao Fengya. She said softly, hello, Grandma. Xiao Fengya's eyes were wet. She hugged E tightly and said softly, hello, hello. I didn't know why, but seeing E and Xiao Fengya reunite made me feel very sad. Tears welled up in my eyes. Xiao Fengya looked at E and then said to me, you don't say. When I look closely, she really does look exactly like Kei, or when she was young. Especially her eyes. They really look like her father. Xiao Fengya hugged E and said softly, E, do you miss your father? If you do, Grandma will call your father. E's eyes lit up. She said loudly, are you going to call Dad? Quick, let Dad pick up the phone. Dad said he was going to take me to play with Grandpa. Grandpa? Your grandpa is lying in bed. He's sick now. When he gets better, he can take E to play. E looked at Duanmu Tachio, who was lying on the hospital bed. Her expression suddenly became very serious. She cried and said, not this grandpa. It's that grandpa. I've seen that grandpa's picture. He doesn't look like this. I want Dad. I want Grandpa. I saw that E was crying very hard, so I quickly took her from Xiao Fengya's arms and handed her to my mother. My mother carried E out of the room. Xiao Fengya looked at me in confusion. What's going on? Isn't E's Grandpa Li Xiong? Then what grandpa is there? What's going on? I sighed and looked at Xiao Fengya. Mom, actually, E's dad isn't Xiao Quebec. It's Han Hao. Her grandpa isn't Dad either. It's Han Hao's father. No. How could E's father be Han Hao? What's going on? Hurry up and tell me clearly. Xiao Fengya was clearly anxious. Mom, calm down. Actually, I've already agreed to Han Hao's proposal. When I'm discharged from a hospital, the two of us will get married. E likes Han Hao a lot, and Han Hao loves E a lot. I have no reason to reject him. In the past, when I was with Xiao Kei, I couldn't see any other men. But now that someone is willing to take care of us, Chapter 251. Xiao Fengya held my hand and said, I understand. We don't have any reason to force you to be with Kei. You can also pursue your own happiness. Besides, Hao-er isn't a bad kid. As long as he's good to you and E, that's enough. It's just that Mom hopes that if you have time, you can bring E home to play and let us old folks see the child. Is that okay? Xiao Fengya asked in a pleading tone. I felt uncomfortable listening to her pleading. Mom, that's okay. As long as you miss E, just give me a call, and I'll bring E over to you. That's not a problem. I could only say this. I couldn't think of any other good solutions. At this time, Mother looked at us and said, It's getting late. Li-er, let Xiaoya rest. Let's go back to your room. I looked at the time. We really had been here for a long time. After saying goodbye to Xiao Fengya, we returned to my room. Father had to leave first because of Red Minghui. Mother took Yi and followed me back to my room. When we arrived, I saw that Yi was very engrossed in playing. I turned to Mother and asked, "Mom, why did Dad come to the hospital with us?" And he didn't say a word the whole time. After I received Han Hao's call, I was very anxious at that time and wanted to see Xiaoya. Their family really has a double whammy. I told your father about it, but he suddenly took the initiative to say that he wanted to go to the hospital with me. I think he probably wants to personally see how Li Xiong is like. I don't want to care about him, as long as he doesn't do anything excessive. My mother sighed. Indeed, I felt very uncomfortable when I saw my father observing others so attentively. I didn't know if Xiao Fengya had noticed, but I hoped she hadn't. At this moment, my mother looked at me and said softly, "Did you give him the money?" I shook my head and said, "So many things have happened before I could. Too many things have happened recently. I had wanted to visit their house next week and give them the money while I was at it, but now it seems even more inappropriate. There's no suitable opportunity to give it to her at all." With Wang Luer's actions, I reckon that Wang Luer's father will be even less likely to invest in the Black Nightmare Society. Our little bit of money is just a drop in the bucket. They'll definitely need more. Seeing the old couple like this, I don't feel good. Yes, I can't ask your father to help them. Your father can't wait for them to go bankrupt. That way, he'll be the only business tycoon in a city. I know what he's thinking, but I don't agree with his actions of stepping on others to climb up the ladder. Mother's words were obviously angry. Okay, Mom, don't be angry. Let's secretly think of a way to solve this. Now that so many things have happened in their family, it's better to let them have some peace and quiet. If we get involved too much, it won't be good. That's true. But Shaoli, there's something Mom doesn't understand. Is it appropriate for you to tell them about Yi's background so early? What if they want to fight with you for Yi? Have you thought about this problem? Mother looked at Yi. I knew that she was very reluctant to part with her, and I was also reluctant to part with her. I've thought about it before. If they really want to snatch Yi from me, I'll definitely go through the legal process. Nowadays, the custody of children is based on the couple's financial ability. Relatively speaking, my financial ability should be better than Duanmukei's. Moreover, they don't know that I gave birth to a child, and they only found out about it 2 days ago. Just based on these 2 points, the court won't give Yi to them, so Mom, don't worry. Yi will definitely be our family's. It's just that if the old couple wants to see the child, I'll take the time to bring them over. I don't want to argue with them about anything else, and little Kay also knows that he's in the wrong. I watched Yi grow up little by little. I didn't know why, but she looked more and more like Duanmu, Quebec. Perhaps this was family, a bloodline that could never be cut off. All right, no matter what, as long as you're happy. Your father and I can only support you in this aspect. We won't get involved in anything else. Mother looked at the time and said, "All right, it's about time. I'll go order some lunch. Yi and I will eat here today. I'll stay with you for a while." Han Hao seems to have to go to the bridal chamber to take a look after his statement. He said that he'll be back later. Oh, all right, I got it. Mother turned and left. Only Yi and I were left in the ward. Yi was still very focused on playing with her doll. Too many things had happened in the past 2 days. We didn't have time to take her to the early education center, but Yi was very obedient. She just quietly stayed by our side. As long as Han Hao and I told her to, she would obediently listen. I was very happy about this. After all, having such a well-behaved daughter saved me a lot of trouble. Just as my thoughts were running wild, the door to the ward was pushed open. Red Baron walked in. Looking at her sweaty face, I knew that she had been busy for a long time. I looked at her and said softly, "You've worked hard. You've been busy for so long. Have you eaten lunch? I'll call Mom and ask her to buy more." The Red Baron slumped in the chair and looked at me. Shaking her head, she said, "Don't call. I saw Madam on the way here. Madam said to bring my share too." Finally, everything is done. It was the first time I saw the Red Baron so tired. Indeed, she hadn't rested for a long time ever since she started preparing for the birthday party. You've worked hard. After lunch, quickly go home and catch up on some sleep. Look at your dark circles. Looking at the Red Baron lying on the chair, my heart ached. Let's talk about it later. Let me tell you the whole story first. After rescuing you that day, I handed Wang Lu Er's friends over to the police. I don't know what information the police got, but I kept emphasizing that Wang Lu Er was the mastermind, but they insisted on classifying it as a simple kidnapping and extortion case. They found a random person and convicted him, saying that he was the main culprit and had nothing to do with Wang Lu Er at all. In fact, after Wang Lu Er's father came that day, he took Wang Lu Er away from the small door. Of course, the police didn't see Wang Lu. Later, one of our sisters disguised herself as a maid in Wang Lu Er's house and snuck into Wang Lu Er's house. Only then did we know that Wang Lu Er was grounded by her father. After that, we don't know how Wang Lu Er escaped. Chapter 252. The Red Baron sighed and continued. I asked the sisters who stayed at Wang Lu Er's house to report to me about her father's situation. They said that Wang Lu Er's father had broken down. It seems that he already knew that his daughter was in danger at that time. You know what happened after that, but there is one thing that I only found out about this morning, and it scared me to death. What could scare you? I looked at the Red Baron in confusion. The Red Baron looked at me and said seriously, actually, on the night that Wang Lu Er escaped, she came to the hospital around 11 o'clock. She passed by your door. If it weren't for Han Hao's request that the patient's name not be written on the door of the ward, you might have been injured even more. What? Wang Lu Er came to my ward? I was very surprised. I thought back and said to the Red Baron, now that you mention it, I seem to remember. That day, I did see a figure flash by the door, but then Duanmu walked in. I always thought it was Duanmu, Quebec. Could that be Wang Lu? That's her. I went to the nurse's station to check the CCTV. After Wang Lu Er passed by your ward, she didn't find you and left. Then Duanmu walked out of the elevator and found your ward. The two of them missed each other. Otherwise, if Wang Lu Er knew which ward you were in, you would definitely be in danger. Fortunately, she didn't find you. So, I guess that she went to Duanmu house because she couldn't find you. She only had one purpose, and that was to force you to show yourself. After this incident, I've decided that I won't let you be in danger anymore. I've already told the president that I will send more people to ensure the safety of you and he. Who knows if there will be anyone who will do anything to you. I don't care what others do to me, but you can't get hurt. You can't let anything happen to you. Actually, when I saw you lying on the hospital bed, covered in wounds, I felt very upset. You pushed Yi out of the door and asked her to go find Han Hao. I was afraid that someone would harm her on the way, so I kept protecting her in secret. But I neglected you. This is what I can't let go of the most. I've been reflecting on myself. Why couldn't I be in two places? If I could, would you not have suffered so many injuries? My heart hurts. The Red Baron's eyes teared up as she spoke. This should be the first time I've seen her cry. My heart trembled. I didn't expect that my stubbornness would cause her to be so conflicted. I held her hand and said softly, I'm sorry, Red Baron. I didn't think so much. I didn't consider your feelings. I'm really sorry. I won't do this again. Please don't be angry, okay? I really won't do this again. I promise you. The Red Baron looked at me. Her tears finally turned into a smile. She said softly, all right. I'm responsible for this too. My plan wasn't perfect. I thought that the kidnapper's motive was money. I didn't expect that their motive was to torture you. I'm sorry, Mississippi. I shouldn't have been too willful. I didn't consider your feelings at all. Red Jew, neither of us should blame ourselves. This matter is over. Let's start over, okay? You're sorry. I should be the one saying sorry. I shouldn't be so willful. I didn't consider your feelings at all. You can't be angry anymore." The Red Baron looked at me and nodded. Then he ran up to the Red Baron and let the Red Baron carry her. The Red Baron carried her and kissed E deeply on her face. The Red Baron didn't understand what E was doing. She looked at E and asked, "E, what's wrong? Why did you suddenly kiss me?" "Thank you, Red Baron Auntie." E hugged the Red Baron's neck and kissed her face. The Red Baron and I laughed. I looked at the Red Baron and said, "Did you see that? Even E knows that you're doing your best to protect us. We all know that, so don't feel guilty anymore." She was actually very lonely. In the entire Red Minghui, she was known as the #1 fighter in the Red Minghui. Within the Red Minghui, she was my father's right-hand woman. But to herself, I was probably her first friend. Gradually, Suri and Xinyao also became Red Baron's friends. Even the Red Baron's sweet smile would only appear when she was with us. Previously, when I attended an internal meeting of the Red Minghui, I saw the Red Baron reprimanding her subordinates with a stern expression and sharp words. Anyway, I definitely wouldn't be able to stand it if she did that to me. But because of her strictness, her subordinates all admired her, and no one dared to disobey her. Seeing the Red Jew fall asleep, I also closed my eyes and fell asleep. I didn't know how long I slept, but when I woke up again, the Red Jew on the sofa was gone. When I turned my head and saw her standing at the door, she made a gesture to me to keep quiet. I nodded. At this time, someone knocked on the door of the ward a few times, then pushed the door open and came in. The Red Jew rushed in front of the man, and the dagger in his hand was placed on the man's neck. I looked at the man, but I didn't know him. The Red Jew looked at her and said loudly, "Who are you?" The Red Jew looked at her and asked loudly, "What are you?" The man sneered and moved his head back slightly. The Red Baron saw that he was trying to escape, so she took another step forward and placed the dagger on his neck again. The Red Baron shouted, "Speak. Who are you?" I could see that her expression was very serious. It seemed that this man had angered her. The man looked at the Red Baron and said, "Your reaction speed is not bad, but your defensive awareness is too weak." Then he reached out and shook off the Red Baron's arm that was holding the dagger. The Red Baron raised her leg and kicked the man's stomach. She was really fast. If it had been anyone else, they would have been lying on the ground. But the man took advantage of the opportunity to grab the Red Baron's thigh with one hand. The Red Baron's fair thigh was exposed. The Red Baron raised her other leg and kicked the man's head. The man turned around and slammed the Red Baron against the wall. Chapter 253. The Red Baron was pressed against the wall and couldn't move. She glared at the man and roared, "Let me go. Who are you? Don't force me. Be careful, or I won't be polite to you." The Red Baron's face was very red. Only now did I notice that because the two of them had wrestled so violently, the Red Baron's long white legs were completely exposed. Her most private part was about to be exposed, but both of the Red Baron's hands were bound by the man. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, I jumped off the bed and directly jumped behind the man. I pointed the dagger at his neck and said softly, "Let her go. You still can't beat two of us." The man sneered and said softly, "Really?" I suddenly felt something pressing against my waist. I looked down and saw that the man's other hand was holding a dagger against my waist. He was just pressing against me, but he didn't hurt me. I was suddenly worried. Could it be that Wang Lo had sent him? My nerves suddenly tensed up. At this moment, someone walked in through the door. I looked out of the corner of my eye and saw that it was Han Hao. Han Hao looked at us and said softly, "What are you guys doing?" Han Hao looked at us with a puzzled expression. "Xiao Hao, this man's background is unknown. I don't know who he is." As soon as he came in, he started to wrestle with the Red Baron. "Xiao Hao, hurry up and stop him." I looked at Han Hao. He was the only one who could help at this time. Han Hao looked at us and laughed. He leaned against the door and said, "Han Hao, you've gone too far. You even dare to hold my wife hostage." This joke is a bit too much. Han Hao looked at the man and spoke as if they were very familiar with each other. The man put down the dagger against my waist and looked at the Red Baron. I'll return your wife to you, but I won't let go of this woman. The man looked at the Red Baron with a strange expression. There was an indescribable feeling in his eyes. Han Hao walked to my side and whispered something in my ear. I was stunned at first. Then I looked at Han Hao and smiled. Han Hao helped me to the bed. I lay down on the bed while he sat next to me. The two of us looked at each other as if we were waiting to watch a good show. Han Hao had just introduced me to the man who was on top of a Red Baron. His name was Yang Shiza, and he was Han Hao's friend. He used to be the world's champion in kickboxing and was now the chairman of a joint venture company. He was an ambitious young man, and he was proficient in all kinds of close combat techniques. Hence, it was impossible for the Red Baron to defeat him. Unless there was a special circumstance, the Red Baron would never carry a hidden weapon. Hence, there was no way she could defeat Yang Shiza today. However, Han Hao had just told me something that surprised me. It turned out that everyone in their circle was familiar with the name Red Baron because the Red Baron was the best female fighter in close combat. Actually, Yang Shiza had come here to compete with the Red Baron and to confess his love to the Red Baron. I had heard from Han how that Yang Shiza had already told him that he liked the Red Baron. Hence, he took the opportunity to pursue the Red Baron. That was why he was so violent towards the Red Baron. Han Hao and I looked at Yang Shiza and the Red Baron. Yang Shiza pinned the Red Baron down on the bed. The Red Baron's face was very red. I knew that she must be regretting that she didn't carry a hidden weapon with her today. Otherwise, she wouldn't have let Yang Shiza act so presumptuously. However, the Red Baron seemed to have realized that Han Hao knew him. She could only helplessly be pinned down by him. Her skirt had already lifted to her thighs, and her entire thigh was exposed. This was probably the most embarrassing thing for her. At this moment, the Red Baron sighed and looked at Yang Shiza. "Let me go." Yang Shiza smiled and looked at the Red Baron. He was less than 10 centimeters away from the Red Baron's face. He said softly, "What's wrong? Have you given up resisting? You're not struggling anymore? Let me go. You and Han Hao know each other. I don't want to hit you, so let me go now." The Red Baron looked at Yang Shiza angrily. I had never seen the Red Baron so angry before. However, I could tell that Yang Shiza seemed to be even happier because the Red Baron was angry. Yang Shiza looked at the Red Baron. He buried his head in the Red Baron's neck and said softly, "I can let you go, but you have to promise me one thing." He gently stroked the Red Baron's exposed thigh. The Red Baron's face turned red. She twisted her body to avoid it. I looked to Han Hao and whispered in his ear, "Xiao Hao, isn't this too much? Look, the Red Baron seems to be really angry." Han Hao shook his head and said, "No, don't worry. They will definitely be together. I promise." Looking at Han Hao's happy smile, I felt less nervous. After hearing Han Hao introduce the boy to me, I felt that he had good qualities. If he was sincere about the Red Baron, I also felt that he would be a very suitable candidate. The Red Baron closed her eyes and shouted, "Say it. What do you want me to promise you? Say it." The Red Baron's voice was very loud, but she didn't sound very confident. It seemed that she had really met a strong enemy. Yang Shiza pressed against the Red Baron's body and said softly, "Will you be my girlfriend?" He gently kissed the Red Baron's face. "What?" The Red Baron looked at Yang Shiza in horror. "Will you be my girlfriend?" Yang Shiza looked at the Red Baron, and his gaze suddenly became very sincere. The Red Baron was stunned. She stopped struggling and looked at Yang Shiza in horror. Her face was full of disbelief. Yang Shiza saw that there was a chance. He let go of the Red Baron and said seriously, "I won't force you. I will pursue you until you say yes." The Red Baron saw that he had let go of her. She quickly straightened her skirt and looked at Yang Shiza. "You stop dreaming. I will never say yes to you." I knew that the Red Baron was angry because she couldn't beat him. That was why her attitude was so tough. But looking at the Red Baron's blushing face, I felt that her heart must be beating very fast. I looked at the Red Baron and asked softly, "Red Baron, do you know who he is?" Red Baron glanced at him and said softly, "Yes, I didn't recognize him at first." It wasn't until Han Hao called him Yang Shiza that I recognized him. It turns out that he is Yang Shiza. He is a kickboxer. I don't think anyone can get close to him now. He is very strong. I have just experienced it. The Red Baron massaged her wrist. It seemed that Yang Shiza had hurt her. She glared at Yang Shiza and walked to my side. She looked at Han Hao and asked softly, "Han Hao, what is going on?" Chapter 254. Let me do the talking. Yang Shiza walked to the bedside, grabbed a chair, and sat down. Then he looked at the Red Baron and said, "I've been good friends with Han Hao since I was young. I went abroad to deal with some company matters, so I didn't know that Han Hao had so many things happening in China. Also, he told me that he was busy with his wedding, so I stayed by his side. First, I could protect him, and second, I could help him. Han Hao and I were talking about how I won the competition, so we talked about the Red Baron. Because the Red Baron is too famous in our circle, everyone said that the Red Baron is a great beauty, but I still wanted to see her in person. So, I used my connections and finally found a picture of the Red Baron. It was taken secretly, but I fell in love with her the moment I saw her, and I couldn't help myself. Later, Han Hao told me that the Red Baron is Cold Glaze's personal bodyguard. At that time, I couldn't wait to see her. When I saw the Red Baron for the first time, I wanted to take her for myself. This kind of possessiveness might be a little scary, but I really like her. So, Miss Lung, please help me. Help me pursue the Red Baron." Looking at Yang Shiza's sincere expression, I felt a little warm in my heart. It seemed that the Red Baron had met the right person this time. Before I could open my mouth to agree, the Red Baron looked at Yang Shiza and said, "Yang Shiza, I advise you not to trouble yourself. I won't fall in love with you, and I don't plan on dating either. I still have my own career to do, so don't trouble yourself." The Red Baron rejected him very straightforwardly. I didn't know if she was really angry, or if she was testing Yang Shiza. I could see that the Red Baron's mood wasn't stable, and Yang Shiza was indeed anxious. I smiled and looked at Han Hao and said, "Xiao Hao, take Yang Shiza to buy some food." I gave Han Hao a meaningful glance. Han Hao immediately understood what I meant. He stood up and patted Yang Shiza's shoulder. "Let's go. Come with me to sell some things. We'll be back soon." Yang Shiza stood up in disappointment. He turned around to look at the Red Baron and followed Han Hao out of the ward reluctantly. The Red Baron and I were the only two people left in the room. I could see that the Red Baron was still angry. I looked at the Red Baron and said softly, "Okay, you're still angry." The Red Baron sighed. "How could I not be angry? It's the first time I've met someone like him. If it weren't for the fact that I couldn't bring hidden weapons with me when I was on duty, he wouldn't have been able to beat me. He's too much. I let him take advantage of me. I'm so angry." Looking at Red Jew's angry face, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I looked at Red Jew and said, "I don't think there's anything wrong with him. He just loves you too much and wants to pursue you. And I think your reaction to him is quite strong. This is the first time I've seen you blush. It seems that you have feelings for him. Red Jew, there are only two of us here. Tell me the truth. Do you also like him?" Red Jew was stunned when she heard me say this. Her expression also became less angry. Red Jew sighed and whispered to me, "Actually, I have known him for a long time. He is the most famous in their circle, and there are a lot of girls who chase after him. The first time I saw him was at their party. At that time, I only went to develop the Red Tea Society's external fighter. At that time, I was heavily armed and no one recognized me, so I just quietly watched them play. I recognized Yang Shiza at a glance, but we didn't have much interaction. Later, because I received a call from the society, I left early and never saw him again. This is the second time we met, and he suddenly confessed to me. It would be strange if I could accept it. So you're blaming him for not giving you time to prepare? I heard the Red Baron's words. It seemed like she really did have feelings for Yang Shiza. I looked at the Red Baron and said, Yang Shiza is really not bad. I don't object to you testing him, but if he's really good to you, you should accept it. Don't miss it. The Red Baron was stunned. She thought for a while and said to me, Miss, it's not that I don't want to fall in love. It's that I can't fall in love right now. Wang Luer's matter hasn't been resolved yet, and there are still many unknown dangers around you. How can I be at ease and pursue my own happiness? That's why I can't put you aside and only care about myself. Miss, please don't try to persuade me. A trace of disappointment flashed through the Red Baron's eyes. I reached out to hold the Red Baron's hand and said, Red Baron, don't worry about this for now. Just give him a chance. What if he's really suitable for you? You should be happy together. I really want you to be happy. Don't just think about me for everything. You have to think about yourself too. I'll make the decision for you. Give him a chance. If he bullies you, Han Hao and I won't let him off, okay? The Red Baron bit her lip. She looked really charming. She thought for a while and finally sighed helplessly and nodded. At this moment, Han Hao and Yang Shiza walked in. Han Hao sat next to me. I smiled and gave Han Hao a look. Han Hao immediately understood and smiled at me. At this moment, the Red Baron looked at Yang Shiza and said, Yang Shiza. Here. I'm here. What orders does my dear Red Baron have? Yang Shiza jumped in front of the Red Baron and looked at her with a smile. The Red Baron sighed helplessly and said, Yang Shiza, I will consider what you said just now. I have a lot of things to deal with right now, so I'm only giving you a chance. However, I won't necessarily agree to it. In my eyes, only Milady is the most important. I hope you understand. Really? That's great. You finally agreed to it. That's great. Yang Shiza looked like a happy child. It was very cute. He reached out and hugged the Red Baron's waist. He looked at her and said softly, That's enough. As long as you don't reject me, it's fine. The Kurosawa reached into his pocket and took out a box. He handed the box to the Red Baron and said softly, I know you don't like jewelry, but you like to collect a lot of strange things. This is a stone that I specially found for you. It's a natural blue pebble. Although it's just a stone, it's very rare. I prepared it for a long time. I hope you like it. Yang Shiza let go of the Red Baron and opened the box. It was a very delicate oval blue pebble. Chapter 255. The Red Baron's eyes immediately lit up. I knew she must really like this stone. The Red Baron looked at Yang Shiza and said softly, Thank you. This stone is very beautiful. I'll accept it. Yang Shiza looked at the Red Baron, accepting his gift, and suddenly became very happy. Then he said, Han Hao and I didn't buy anything just now. Let's go out and buy something to eat. Then he pulled the Red Baron's hand and left. Only Han Hao and I were left in the room. Watching the two of them leave, I couldn't help but sigh. Han Hao looked at me and reached out to pat my head. Idiot, did those two disturb you? I'll teach Caesar a lesson for you later. He's just like that. He'll slowly get used to it. Not really. I think Caesar is pretty good. He'll definitely treat the Red Baron well. After interacting with the Red Baron for so long, you should be able to tell that the Red Baron is a girl with a hard mouth but a soft heart. Right now, I really hope that she can meet the right man for her. Yang Shiza is pretty good. If possible, let's try to set them up. Han Hao pursed his lips and looked at me. You still have time to think about other people? Why don't you think about what's going on between the two of us? Han Hao looked a little unhappy. I gently rubbed his palm and said softly, All right, didn't I already agree to marry you? So don't be jealous and think too much. The two of us have already gotten married, but the two of them haven't. I'm just worried, so don't be angry. Han Hao sighed and looked at me. All right. Whatever you say. I can't help it. Who told me to love you so much? Han Hao cupped my face and kissed me on the lips. I smiled and looked at Han Hao. Looking at his handsome face, my heart felt very comfortable. Now that I think about it, I should be a very lucky person to have such a perfect lover. Han Hao suddenly seemed to remember something. He looked at me and said softly, "I just came from Uncle Duanmu's room. Uncle Duanmu's situation doesn't look too good." "What? What's going on? Tell me in detail. What happened to Dad?" I suddenly felt a little worried. Han Hao looked at me and sighed. Uncle Duanmu may have received a strong external stimulus, which then led to high blood pressure and heart disease. Although his life is no longer in danger, he's still in a severe coma. He hasn't woken up yet. Even the doctors can't guarantee that he won't wake up. Right now, Andy Xiao is very sad. Xin Yao is also crying very sadly. Fortunately, Suri is always by her side. It's all my fault. If I hadn't angered Wang Lu, if I hadn't realized that she would deal with Duanmu K and his family, so many things wouldn't have happened. Dad wouldn't be like this. It's all my fault. What about Xiao K? He's also here, right? His mood is still stable. Han Hao sighed. He's also here, but his condition isn't good either. He suffered too big of a blow. Now that their family is in such a situation, more and more things are happening. They definitely can't take it anymore. Also, Xin Yao just found out that she's pregnant. Her condition isn't good either. More and more things are happening, but she doesn't know how to help them. What? Xin Yao is pregnant? I couldn't believe it, but I was also very happy. After all, she and Suri had been married for so long, so they should have a baby. Han Hao nodded. Yeah, she's been pregnant for 3 months. She doesn't even know it herself. If she hadn't fainted from grief, and the doctor hadn't found out that she was pregnant, she probably wouldn't have felt it until her belly was big. But her body is malnourished, and she's also in the stage of keeping the baby. She's already in the hospital, right next to Uncle Duanmu's room. Don't worry, Suri is already by her side. I smiled bitterly and looked at Han Hao. This is great. During this period of time, everyone will be going in and out of the hospital. I'm fine now, but none of you will let me leave the hospital. You want me to recover before I go out. But it's really stuffy here, and I can't take care of E anymore. I don't know if she's been good or not. She's so smart, I'm afraid that my parents won't be able to control her. You shouldn't accompany me during this period of time. You should go and take care of E for me. She's the only one who listens to you. Sometimes I have to reason with her, and I might not be able to out-talk her. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. Of course, I'll accompany you when I have time. Don't worry, I might not be able to come here often during this period of time. After all, there's the renovation of the house, the wedding preparations, and the company matters. I also have to take care of E, so I might not be able to take care of everything. That's why I asked Caesar to come and accompany you. With Red Baron and Caesar by your side to protect you, I'll be at ease. Otherwise, I really won't be at ease if you're alone. I can't let anything happen to my bride. Don't worry, I got it. You can go and do your things. I'll be fine alone. Just let the two of them have a good date. Don't let me affect them. I reached out and touched Han Hao's face. Actually, my heart ached for him. He was very good to me. I knew that he was preparing for his wedding very carefully. How could I be so stubborn as to only let him be good to me and not understand him? I looked at him and said, I know you're very busy, and I also know that you're busy with things for our future. I can't help you now, so I can only ask you to do these things. But you must take care of your body. You've lost weight recently, and you've become a lot more haggard. I don't want to see you like this. It will make my heart ache. Han Hao nodded and looked at me. I know you're very anxious too. Don't worry, didn't the doctor say that you're recovering well? You just have to be at ease and wait to be discharged. Don't think about anything else. Just be at ease and be my bride, as long as you don't regret marrying me. How could I regret marrying you? I'm very happy that you're willing to take me and EE in. As long as you don't give up on us, we'll be fine. Don't think that we're a burden to you. Han Hao looked at me with a black face. It seems that at this time, E is much cuter than you. E wouldn't threaten me like this. In this world, only you can treat me like this. I don't have a temper. Actually, my temper is quite bad. If anyone dares to take an inch and want a mile, I definitely won't forgive them. Only you can see this gentle side of me. Chapter 256. I spent a few more days in the hospital. The doctor would come to check on me on time every day. He said that I was recovering well and could be discharged in a few days. Han Hao was busy with his wedding and his work, so he rarely came to visit me. On the other hand, as long as the Red Baron was here, he would definitely appear. He would stay as long as the Red Baron was here. Also, we never had to worry about food. He would prepare everything properly. Over the past few days, other than my parents who brought E to visit me a few times, Xiao Fengya came to visit me twice. Every time she saw me, she would look very guilty. Actually, I should be the one who was sorry, but she insisted that they were the ones who had wronged me. Duan Muke didn't appear for the past few days. I didn't know what he was busy with. I guessed that there was no one to manage the Kurosawa, so he went back to take charge. Ever since I found out that Xinyao was pregnant, I was very nervous. I went to her ward to visit her, but she wasn't in a good state of mind. She was fine when she was sleeping, but she would get emotional and cry easily when she woke up. I heard from Suri that her body was weak to begin with, and on top of that, she had suffered a huge blow. She could only stay in bed to protect the baby. If she were to be agitated again, she might not even be able to keep the baby. I once asked Suri who he would choose if he had to choose between Xinyao and the baby. At the time, Suri told me, without hesitation, that he would choose Xinyao because in his eyes, Xinyao was more important than the baby. At the time, I felt very comforted. We could have more children, but we could only love one person. I asked the Red Baron to buy a batch of imported maternity products for Xinyao to ensure her health. I hoped that her condition would improve. I also asked the Red Baron to buy some health products and send them to Duanmu Tachio's ward. Xiao Fengya had come to visit me twice, and I felt that she had become more haggard and thinner. I was worried that she wouldn't be able to take the pressure and collapse, so I asked the Red Baron to arrange for a few close friends to guard outside their ward. If there was any news, they would inform me immediately. The days passed like that. Han Hao was very busy every day. He could only contact me when he wasn't busy. Sometimes, before he left in the morning, he would come to my ward to take a look at me before leaving. Sometimes, when it was very late at night and the visiting hours had passed, he would sneak into the ward to see me. If he was really tired, he would sleep on the sofa next to me. My heart ached when I saw him sleeping soundly. He must have not had a good rest for a long time. I just lay on the bed and watched him. Just like that, I could watch him for the entire night. Perhaps this was companionship. Although we didn't talk much, it was very warm. The next day, when I couldn't take it anymore and fell asleep, I didn't know when Han Hao had left. That was how the two of us were. Although we had only known each other for a short time, we understood that our hearts were tied to each other. That was enough for me. On this day, I sat by the window of the ward and read as usual. Yang Shiza brought a lot of new and strange gadgets for the Red Baron. The two of us studied them very seriously. Seeing that the Red Baron gradually let down her guard, I felt that it was good. It seemed that she had gradually accepted Yang Shiza. When it was almost time for lunch, the door to the ward was pushed open. The person who walked in was none other than Duanmu, Quebec. I hadn't seen him for a long time. Compared to the past few days, his mental state wasn't very good. After he closed the door, he walked directly to the sofa and sat down. It seemed that he had been tired for a long time. I looked at the Red Baron and Yang Shiza and said, "Red Baron, you and Yang Shiza can go out first. I have something to discuss with Duanmu, Quebec." The Red Baron nodded and led Yang Shiza out. Only Duanmu K and I were left in the ward. I looked at him. He leaned his head back on the sofa and closed his eyes. It seemed that he hadn't rested well for a long time. I looked at him and asked softly, "How's Dad?" Duan Muke shook his head and said softly, "Not good. The doctor has checked on him many times. I don't know how long it will take for him to wake up. Mom can't take it anymore. She wants to pull out the tube and go home. I don't want to see her disappointed face, so I hid here." "Huh? You can't pull out the tube. If you pull out, Dad won't be able to be saved. At least for now, there's still a ray of hope." When I heard that Xiao Fengyao was about to give up, I couldn't help but tremble. How fragile a human's life was. "If you have time, please help me persuade Mom. She listens to you more than anyone else. Xinyao's condition isn't good either. She needs to protect the baby. If it weren't for Suri's help, I wouldn't have been able to take care of her. There's also a lot of things to do in Kurosawa. I really can't handle it." Duan Muke then lay down on the sofa and curled up. It was a sign of insecurity. He must be in a lot of pain. At this time, there was no one to help him. "How are things in Kurosawa? Is there anything else you need to do?" I looked at Duanmu Quebec. I didn't know if there was anything I could help him with. Duanmu K sighed and said, "Sai, don't bring it up. I've just finished dealing with Yusin's funeral 2 days ago, and finally entered her into the genealogy as a daughter with a different surname from the Duanmu family. That's a little repayment from our family. Because of Wang Luer's incident, the fact that she intentionally committed murder cannot be changed. The trial hasn't been held yet, and we don't know what kind of crime she'll be convicted of. But with Wang Luer's father's power, she definitely won't be sentenced to death. Her father has already withdrawn his investment, and the entire Black Nightmare Society is now an empty shell. Other than a few projects that can still be maintained, the other projects have all stopped. Or rather, I should say they've all stopped. The board of directors is under so much pressure, and I can't hold on much longer. I thought for a moment, then walked to the cabinet and took out the 5 million yuan bank card that my mother had given me and the 10 million yuan bank card that I had taken out myself. I walked to Duan Muke and handed him the 2 cards. "I can't help you with anything," I said softly. "These 2 cards have 15 million yuan in them. You should use them for emergency relief and restore some profitable projects. Don't go bankrupt for real. You still have your parents, your sister, and your unborn child. They all need you, so you have to hold on. I know that this amount of money is only a small amount, and I can't take out that much." Duan Muke raised his head and looked at me. He said softly, "Some time ago, someone invested 10 million under Lin Yu's name. That person was you, right? Although it's not your real name, this method is definitely yours. I won't be wrong." Chapter 257. Tell her not to worry. Dad will definitely get better. Also, I don't know if you know Han Hao's friend, but he's called Yang Shiza. He's the boss of a company. I can ask him to buy your company's loss-making companies. That way, you can relieve some of the pressure on you." Duan Muke took the bank card and looked at me. "That won't be necessary. After all, he's not someone I'm particularly familiar with. If it negatively affects his company, I'll feel even more apologetic. Don't worry, I'll accept these 2 sums of money. When the Black Nightmare Society recovers, I'll return them to you as soon as possible. Altogether, it'll be 25 million. I'll always remember it." I smiled. "That won't be necessary. I'll use this money to buy back the good times I spent with you. Although I don't want to forget them, I've already decided to be with Han Hao. I can't live with him for the rest of my life with those memories. That would be disrespectful to him." I knew my words were a bit harsh. Duan Muke's face didn't look good. I could see that he was very disappointed. After a while, Duan Muke nodded. "Okay, I understand. If you want to forget, then forget. But I'll still return the money to you. If I forget, then forget, but I can't owe you." I nodded. Looking at Duan Muke, I said, "And as you wish. Han Hao and I also hope to receive your blessings for our wedding. After all, we don't want to lose a friend like you." Duan Muke nodded. "Shaoli, can I rest here for a while? I'm afraid that Mom and sister won't feel good when I see them, so I want some peace and quiet. Can I sleep here for a while? I'm really tired. Duanmu-ke closed his eyes and lay down on the sofa. Okay, sleep. I'll get you a blanket. You sleep. I walked to the wardrobe and took out a blanket to cover Duanmu, Quebec. Not long after, he fell asleep. Looking at his sleeping appearance, I suddenly felt that he had become much quieter. Being quiet wasn't a bad thing, but it was a pity that he no longer belonged to me. I sat down next to Duanmu-ke and watched him sleep. I couldn't help but reach out and stroke his face. In fact, I knew that Duanmu-ke was very good. Maybe the two of us really weren't destined to be together in this life. I hoped that he would be able to get through this difficult time, find a suitable man, and pursue his happiness. Duanmu-ke slept at my place for more than an hour. He received a call, woke up, and left. He didn't say much to me. Looking at his departing figure, I didn't think too much. He wasn't someone who belonged to me anymore. Why should I think about other things? I just smiled bitterly. Let's end this like this. The days after that were very peaceful. Xing Yao also recovered a lot and was no longer as depressed. Duanmu-tachio also gradually reacted. It seemed that he wouldn't be long before he woke up. I heard from Suri that the 15 million I gave Duanmu-ke had been put to good use. 3 projects had already resumed operations, temporarily solving some problems. As for some projects that could only be solved by bankruptcy, they had yet to be dealt with. I discussed this matter with Han, Hao, and Yang Shiza. Yang Shiza also agreed to buy some projects to help the Black Nightmare Group. Overall, everything was developing in a good direction. This was the result that all of us wanted to see. Finally, the day of my discharge arrived. He came to the ward early to give me a checkup. He said that I was recovering well and that I could be discharged with peace of mind. My injuries had already healed. On the day of my discharge, Han Hao came to the hospital early to help me with the discharge procedures. After everything was arranged properly, we were discharged. I followed Han Hao into the car and headed in the direction of my home. I suddenly remembered something. I looked at Han Hao and said, "Xiao, let's take a detour to the cemetery. I want to see someone." Han Hao was stunned. He seemed to understand and nodded. We changed our route and headed in the direction of the cemetery. When we passed by a flower shop, I specially bought a bouquet of flowers for worship. The person I was going to see was very important to me. When we arrived at the cemetery, I looked at Han Hao and said, "Why don't you wait for me at the entrance?" Han Hao shook his head and said to me, "Since we're here together, let's go see her together. Although she and I can't be considered friends, she's still a very important person to me because she saved your life." I looked at Han Hao and nodded with a smile. Then I took Han Hao's arm and walked through the entrance. When I arrived in front of Yu Xian's tombstone, there was a bouquet of flowers in front of it, but they had already withered. It looked like they had been there for a long time. I picked up the bouquet of flowers and placed them in front of her tombstone. On the tombstone was a picture of Yu Xian. It was a black and white picture, but there was no smile on her face. I squatted down and reached out to touch the picture. My heart was heavy. Looking at the picture, I softly said, "I'm sorry, I'm late. I just got out of the hospital and only just got the chance to see you. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Although our relationship wasn't very good when you were alive, I never held a grudge against you. I'll remember you taking a bullet for me for the rest of my life. Don't worry, I've already arranged for people to come and clean for you regularly and talk to you. Don't worry, you won't be alone. Although we weren't good friends when you were alive, from now on, I'm your friend, and I always will be." My tears flowed down uncontrollably. Han Hao walked to my side and put his hand on my shoulder. He softly said, "Darling, don't be sad. She'll be very happy if we can come and see her. Don't be too sad." I reached out and wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. I just feel that life is really too fragile. She's still so young. Although I used to hate her, there are still a lot of things that I can't bear to part with. Han Hao helped me up and said softly, "All right, don't be too sad. It's getting late. Let's go back first. Dad, Mom, and the rest are still waiting for us at home. They still have to discuss the wedding. We still have a lot of things to do now. You have to cheer up. If you're unhappy, I'll be unhappy too, okay? Darling. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.